And what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo versus US Fall Open 2021. I'm your host, Jordan Kent. We've got all sorts of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate action coming your way, and joining me for the fun, two of the greatest commentators you will see from across the land. Let's start with EE. Man, it has been over a year since I've seen you. I know you're busy commentating everything related to Smash. I think I saw you calling the World Series the other day. How you been?
I have been fantastic, my friend, to say the least. You know, obviously it's been a trying year and a half for a lot of us, but things are just really starting to get back to normal. I'm starting to see my friends again, and you know what that means? More Smash Bros. Action, so I got no complaints.
And joining us once again, Vicky Kitty. Vicky, we had a chance to break down this action 2 weeks ago in the US Fall Open 2021 that took place. What did you realize? What did you learn from a couple weeks ago that you're excited about for today?
The plethora of characters that we were able to witness from a lot of these competitors that they were able to bring out, a lot of them honestly coming out of left field that we weren't expecting. So seeing the competitors that we're seeing today, I'm expecting maybe a change up. I noticed that a lot of them stuck to their guns with the characters that they wanted to play with, but let's see if that stays today since we're at the end of the bracket, Jordan.
We are at the end of the bracket, and we're now here with the top four players from regions 5, 6, 7, and 8 from over hundreds of participants. And today they're battling, of course, not only for bragging rights, but a ton of prizes. So let's get started here. We have a gaming chair, a gaming headset, Nintendo versus US Fall Open 2021 trophy. You can go ahead and throw that in the back of your stream. 10,000 My Nintendo Gold Points, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Jacket, a backpack, a Nintendo Switch carrying case, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, a Nintendo versus badge, and a Nintendo versus lanyard. Yes, EE, there will be a quiz on this a little bit later, but let's go ahead and just talk a little bit more about this field as we look at this bracket. We mentioned the top four from regions 5, 6, 7, and 8. Vicky, you pointed out every single one of these competitors stuck with their main throughout the round of 32 and the ladder. So don't expect to see too many changes, unlike what we saw a couple weeks ago. And Vicky, it comes down to more than just knowing your main, but also knowing your matchups. Who are you going up against? How are you going to adapt your playstyle, I imagine, to what you're seeing from your competition?
Well, thinking about looking at these competitors and how a lot of them did stick to just one character throughout the bracket, no matter what had happened, whether a lot of these competitors had either lost 3 games or even 1 game, I feel like just adjusting to what you are expecting, depending on the matchup that you have on hand, is going to be extremely important. That's something that we witnessed just 2 weeks ago with a lot of their competitors where they started playing characters that we weren't expecting them to play, that they hadn't played all bracket. So making sure that you know your matchup is going to be important, especially when you are playing online.
And EE, this just popped into my mind. You called a lot of high competition live action tournaments, and so much has shifted to online over the past year, and now so many more competitive players have played online. What are you noticing about top level online play? Is there anything that really jumps out at you as you really witness and call a lot of these tournaments?
Well, one thing that's really popped out in my head is people just have a thirst to just keep getting better. I mean, we're in a situation where we have so many characters to choose from, and just that character loyalty that a lot of people have. You know what that's driven behind? The fact that I don't feel like I have to switch over to what the meta dictates, right? I can take my character, take it to new heights, and just keep jamming. I think that's what we're going to see kind of displayed right here with a lot of these competitors, which makes me even more excited.
Let's cover the rules real quickly. It's a 4-player double elimination bracket. We will have 2 winners, so the winner of the winners bracket and our losers brackets will each take home that prize pack that we mentioned earlier. Best of 3 games wins the match, of course. No items, smash meter, and a random stage selection of 8 curated stages. It's 3 stocks and 7 minutes. And Vicky, in your opinion, we had a chance to see this tournament take place 2 weeks ago. What do you think it's going to take from our winners today? What will really help them separate themselves from the best of the best?
Experience, I think, is going to be the highlight that we're going to be seeing today within this region, because looking at a lot of our competitors, they're actually familiar names within the competitive space. So I think that experience is definitely going to come in handy with a lot of these approaches, such as the matchups that we were talking about earlier.
And EE, according to the rumor mill, based upon some of the crack research we've done coming into this Final Four, 2 of our participants, yes, 2 of them, will play as Steve from Minecraft. Give us a quick little breakdown as far as the play style that we're going to see from Steve. How do you want to maximize that kit?
Well, I mean, Steve is just a combo heavy character, right? Like, you know, he gets so much off just kind of essentially just carrying you to the side of the stage and just getting you off. Like, a lot of times we're trying to spike you down with the fair. Depending on your recovery, can result insert destruction. Okay, those blocks just coming back and do a lot of damage. And one thing about Steve, you can be so creative. You know what I'm saying? And it's not based off the fact that you have to necessarily have iron or diamond. Like even his normals are just really good. So honestly, like the better minded Steve is probably going to take it. But if they ended up like having a mirror match to open things up, all bets are like keep it 100 with you.
Well, we'll get ready to roll here with our first matchup. The players obviously getting set for that. And Vicky, looking at the other side of the bracket, when you look at non-Steve players, well, you do have a Mewtwo from Marks M2. And Marks M2 carried this Mewtwo all the way through the round of 32 in the ladder bracket. So what do you see initially? What are you thinking about when you see a Steve versus a Mewtwo here?
I say light because Mewtwo is on rather that lighter side. His tail is prone to getting hit a lot. But now, since we're seeing that we're going to be moving on to Town and City as that first map, I like this for Mewtwo because he can utilize these platforms, but so can Minecraft Steve. As you can already see, getting started and creating that wall that he was talking about, how creative you could play with this character in general.
And Alex representing Minecraft here. And early on, it is the stage control going to Jake. As we mentioned, went with that tag, but we're going with Jake here this afternoon. And really, as you mentioned, with Steve, with Alex here, you've got so many tools at your disposal to really keep your opponent off guard.
Absolutely. I think Vicky kind of hit the nail on the head too with Mewtwo's weight. Like that's going to kind of betray him in certain situations. So you got to be super careful. Really can't allow Steve to just get any of these free hits, especially the fact that he's so good at just maneuvering around. You see him just using the minecart to the full perfect execution, just spiking him down to take that first stock, but then just going to give it right back. What the heck was that?
Well, you mentioned the that fair is going to be coming out for that meteor, and already we saw that coming from Jake, and now it's 2 stocks apiece here, Vicky, and a chance here for Marks M2 to kind of reset things, but still hanging out in that disadvantage state a little bit.
Yeah, even though Jake kind of gave that stock right back over to Marks M2. Ooh, I like that. That was pretty cheeky to get around that wall, especially since it's wood, so it doesn't break as easily. But you can see right now that Jake is having the time of their life, keeping Marks M2 off the stage, basically claiming that's Jake's Mewtwo right here because he was able to control so much space and is going to take the second stock while only taking 18%.
That down air claiming the second stock. Now Marks M2 down 2 stocks to 1, and Jake very healthy here. And really, once again, it's Jake just dictating the pace of this match. It really seems like Marks can't quite get in.
Appropriate name for the tab because I'm thinking these stocks need to be insured, man. This is looking pretty damaging, I must say. But again, it just kind of goes to show you, like, confidence. This is a character that allows you to be so creative and just kind of freestyle throughout. And I think he's doing a good job. Now, Mewtwo obviously does have the capability, and we see right there with that down air, to make comeback, to take off stocks as well. But you can't allow your percentage to get too high to these points where you're not even getting a chance to swing back.
Yeah, Mark's really climbing back into this matchup very quickly, really strung together the first meaningful combo of this entire set so far, and now it's relatively even ground here, Vicky. Both fighters down to their final stock, but another punishing down air.
Playing against stage when they have that diamond pickaxe at the ready.
And it really seemed like the minecart was completely throwing off any of the approach attempts that we saw from Mewtwo and Marks, and that can make it very difficult because you are instantaneously put into disadvantage state, which, as we know, Mewtwo, large, floaty character with a huge hurt box, not where you want to be.
100%. That card is so deadly too because it's super versatile. Like you don't just use it as a recovery, right? Like it's a command grab when he's not inside it too. So you can really just kind of clear your opponent off the stage, put him in an uncomfortable position, which is where we saw Marks end up, which is why my man Jake was able to kind of put him in that position to finish him with that diamond pickaxe, as Vicky called out. So eloquent.
Marks M2 rolling with Mewtwo again as we go to Yoshi's story, and this time we'll see if the smaller stage here, Vicky, do you think that favors any one of these fighters in particular?
What I think is really interesting about the different stages just being all random here is that Jake has to be wary of which stages we're going to, because that also affects what material you're going to be more prone to mining, and that's also going to allow Jake to get a lot of the shenanigans going similarly to what we had seen in game number 1. But Marks Mewtwo is playing way better now, playing a lot more safer, and is able to realize that the Shadow Ball that they could send out actually tries to contest the minecart that was such a big problem in the first game.
Beautiful 1-2 combo from that Shadow Ball. The falling back air allows Marks M2 to take a huge percentage lead already. And how about that, Marks M2 changing the narrative early.
You can already see that this stage is just paying off better itself. Like, it's more of a close quarters battle, so I feel like he's able to kind of just get in there and really enable him to kind of stack up the damage quickly. I feel like Jake, he was able to keep some good spacing whenever he wanted to, but now you're seeing like Mark's just all over him, not allowing him to really breathe in a lot of these instances. Looks like a complete 180 from that first game.
Marks M2 stuck in disadvantage. We heard you right there, Vicky. Beautiful and able to get back on the stage. A little bit of drama early on here, but now it is Marks M2 racking up the damage on the second stock here for Jake, Vicky, and this is completely different from what we saw from the last game here. It really seems like Marks M2 starting to get comfortable, and as I say that, they lose a stock.
You have to commentators curse it at least once, Jordan, but just as you were talking about, Marks is playing this completely different than the first game, playing a lot more patiently and isn't going to get called out by those Minecrafts as often as he was before in that first game. And these combos, though, that Jake is putting down, I think is able to kind of come back here from this disadvantage state, but the gap is slowly closing in with Marks already having him at 51%, keeping up the pressure.
And that beautiful neutral air is such a safe approach tool for Marks M2 and Mewtwo. However, Jay quickly bouncing back into this here and already racking up 37 in EE. Here comes that minecart. This is not where Marks M2 wants to be.
Yeah, I don't know what really happened. Mark's just kind of letting this one get away from him because Jake's just kind of come back storming, having his way with him. And again, you're seeing that minecart be so effective. Again, just kind of clearing off, recovering anything you want out of it. It is being beneficial. Marks, though, he is closing in on this stock. Got him at 100%, but you don't want to force it. That's the worst situation you can put yourself in as you see him fly and get some stage control.
Marks M2 trying to get back on stage. You see the TNT on the left-hand side. Another Minecraft. Excellent move with the cart there, knocking Marks M2 off the stage. But here comes Marks M2 trying to take over control. Misses the opportunity, but here it is. How about the falling fair here, Vicky, to close out this game?
That was a much better look from Marks, but I'm worried about what he had said before. The more time and space you gave to Jake in that second game, you were a little bit on the edge of your seat expecting Jake to make the comeback. So despite Marks getting that and making some of those adjustments, I like the patient play, but it looked like Jake was right behind him with that.
And you mentioned the patient play. It really seemed like early on in this game, what we saw from Marks was a much more aggressive mindset and really a commitment to keep their opponent in disadvantage. And that's what really was the difference to me as far as keeping Jake in that disadvantage. We saw that from Marks M2.
Well, yeah, I think the stage really aided in him being able to do that. But down the stretch, what I think started to happen is he started getting a little tunnel vision, looking a little too far ahead, like, all right, we're going to game 3 for sure. No, you got to stay focused, stay engaged, and make sure you close out cleanly because, honestly, the way that was headed, man, it's very possible that Jake could have mounted that comeback and we would not be in this situation. Fortunately for him, though, we got a game 3 on Smash.
Well, Jake sprinting out to an 84-0% lead already. And Vicky, this is exactly the type of start you want if you are Jake. And how about this? A flawless stock right off the bat.
Talk about wanting that perfect game, Jordan. 0 to 100 real quick, and Marks is trying to reverse that right now. I love the patience right there, waiting to see where Jake was going to roll on that top platform. But now he's stuck against the ledge, and he knows he needs to try to get this clean stock as soon as possible because that 0 to 100 is not going to work out here, especially in this final game for game number 3.
Now it's Marks that was nearly flawless in the second stock, but now just trying to get back up on the ledge. And just how about the ability of the edge guarding that we're seeing from Jake. Jake finally losing their first stock, but here is the opportunity here, EE. If you are Marks M2 to try and even this match, here you are 2 stocks apiece. Seems like you finally got your footing after that really poor start.
Yeah, exactly. You said it best, man. The way this thing started, you would expect this to be a blowout, but no, we only got about 30% separating the two. So I think what Marks is doing is kind of getting his footing back in there. You see him tearing through with that neutral air and just keeping on pressure, but smartly too. He's not overextending. He's not forcing anything. He's actually letting Jake come to him, and a lot of these counter hits starting to add up big time as he's holding this stage down.
Marks M2 doing a great job of reading Jake, catching the landings. The winner of this game will take the set and move on to winners finals here. Well, they'll have a chance to compete for this prize bag. But right now, it's 2 stocks apiece, nearly identical percentages. The TNT on the side, Marks M2 able to avoid that, but will eat a minecart right to the face. And Vicky, it's now 2-1, advantage Jake.
It highlights the pressure right now that we're seeing from Jake. He's been keeping Marks by the ledge until that very moment where Marks is able to get that punish and get the grab. I love the spacing right there. Manages to hold back a little bit, space out that shadow ball so he can get the full extent of it. But look at that. The diamond is now unlocked for Jake. He's already been able to craft up the diamond pickaxe, and this is going to be lethal for the last stock.
Some clinic tape being put out right now by Marks M2, but it looks like Jake has regained control. Oh, the minecart is going to roll Marks M2 off the stage. He's trying to recover, and Jake still just sending Marks M2 off the side. It's all about trying to get out of this disadvantage, EE, but it is all in favor of Jake at this point on this final stock.
I'm telling you, man, you take so much damage just trying to kind of put yourself back in a favorable position, and you're seeing it's working so far. The sentence before he finished that stock, Jake gonna take it 2-1. Crazy.
That's a dangerous fair that comes out from Alex and Steve, and you see how quickly it caught Marks M2, and so now that'll advance Jake to the winners finals. And Vicky, what really stood out to me about Jake and their play style was just how aggressive they were at keeping Marks M2 in that disadvantage, not allowing them to get back on stage and reset neutral. And as EE pointed out, just so much damage being racked up when you're just trying to even out this game once again.
Yeah, if you look at the option coverage that was getting covered entirely by Jake, between the minecarts covering the bottom side and then the back airs or the fairs to cover any sort of jumps that were being forced out of Marks, it was so difficult as a character like Mewtwo to get over a wall of all that pressure because of the reason we highlighted earlier within that set is that Mewtwo's body is rather large, so not only are you large, but you're also light at the same time. So it's lethal to try to go up against a character like Minecraft Steve in this situation where you can't really get through a wall of pressure like that.
Let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket after our first set has taken place here in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021. And that is Jake advancing to winners finals. That'll send Marks M2 down to our loser semifinal, which sets up a matchup between Zerzal and D-Dog. And we're going to see yet another Steve coming out here for the most part from D-Dog. But Zerzal went undefeated, 12-0, ranked number 1 in the ladder round, EE, while using Min Min. And I know Min Min has been a very popular pick since her debut in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
100%. First of all, this is going to be a fun battle of DLC. Let's talk about that first and foremost. These are two of the most, I think, exciting DLC characters that you can get. Secondly, Min Min has really grown on me a lot because, from the first, couple of events we saw, she's really been optimized since that point. People really kind of understand, like, this character is got a lot more coverage and, more things to offer than we initially thought about. But that just comes with people being patient and timing and just kind of learning how to optimize your character. I think this is going to be a good showdown. Undefeated too, come on.
Oh, yeah, 12-0. It's hard to go against that. And Vicky, this optimization is what's really interesting about these DLC characters because they haven't been out that long. They haven't been out like Mario, who's been with us since Smash 64. I mean, this is just a couple of months, less than a year with Min Min, and it seems like you're not only learning new things about the character, but so is your opponent.
Absolutely. You know what that also highlights? That also highlights that a lot of these competitors also have a really strong secondary that they could take out if they feel like they're in any trouble. So it really does trickle down to that experience that we wanted to see a lot of our competitors come out here from their own experience here. You're already seeing that right now with the way that Zerzal is actually playing this keep away game, and going onto Town and City is going to be tricky for D-Dog to actually get in on a character like Min Min.
Ram and the Dragon fully loaded for Min Min. A couple of juggles coming out from D-Dog, and looking at Zerzal and Min Min, you figure, EE, you got to play that zoning game and make sure you don't let D-Dog and Enderman get up close in your face and close that gap.
Not at all. And that's the one thing that Min Min just does so well, right? Just she can really kind of keep you out while still exerting so much pressure. You see it actually right now. My man D-Dog trying to find a way in, but you're seeing how Zerzal actually probably went undefeated in all his rounds. He's an absolute beast and just applying all kinds of pressure. 136. This stock is on borrowed time right now, and time is up.
And just D-Dog having to eat so many of those arms, and Zerzal doing a fantastic job of just maintaining this zoning, as you said, Vicky. Every single fighter and character, you have that sweet spot of where you want to operate. You want to make sure you don't let your opponent get too close or get you out of your rhythm.
Especially when those platforms are out of the picture here. You're just forced to jump around Zerzal, but I love the creative approach right there with the Minecraft part. But you see Zerzal already ready to try to cover that jump, and I feel like that's the most pressuring thing. So utilizing these blocks to be a little bit more creative to try to make up some makeshift cover is probably going to be the best case scenario right here, and actually try to punish Zerzal for trying to jump in.
Now, D-Dog went 2-0 in every other round, and then 0-2 in the winner's bracket, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and reset things. There are some rules in place for this. Again, it's online play. Sometimes things happen right there, but what we saw from that snippet, though, EE, it was Zerzal and the Min Min really just has the timing down of the 1-2 that comes from those arms linking into these short little combos that just rack up so much damage before you even let your opponent try and get closer.
Dude, it's so frustrating because, like, again, Steve, like, he loves the combo, but what do you do if you can't get in there to get any combo started? You just, like, frustrate. That's the worst part about it, is, like, no frustration starts to mount, and just like that, you're down in stock. You're seeing your percentage continue to rise, and, like, just the lead just continues to slip away. It's really, like, taxing on you, especially if it's the first game, too. Like, and this guy has yet to lose at all, and you're just like, man, I don't want to be just another, mark and notch on the chalkboard for this guy, but, well, sometimes what can I do about it?
And Vicky, what's fascinating to me in this matchup is Steve and Alex, they don't have a constant projectile that they could throw out there. They have inventory management they have to maintain. Sure, you've got the minecart that can maybe close the gap, but that to me seems like a real disadvantage against a min-min, a zoner that can apply so much pressure and doesn't have to worry about their raw materials throughout that time.
Yeah, you highlighted it perfectly, Jordan. How are you going to access your crafting table when you're getting pinged by so much pressure by Min from so far away? Safe pressure, mind you, at that. And if you could see the way that Zersol is actually playing, consistently throwing out the Dragon Arm to get the laser beam out is covering so much space in terms of recovery horizontally, so you can't even utilize the Minecraft cart for some extra additional pressure to cover up some insurance when you're trying to land back on the stage. So it's difficult. You highlighted it perfectly, Jordan. This matchup in particular is difficult for Alex or Minecraft Steve.
So then, I guess here's the million-dollar question for Steve and Alex. How do you close that gap? Because it feels like once you can get Min in that disadvantage and you are up close to her, that's when she really struggles. But how do you do that if you're Steve and Alex? How do you do that if you're D-Dog?
Well, the best hope you can have is that you kind of queue up to a stage. You need platforms, right? I think personally, you need platforms. This kind of helps with the approach. Also helps you disengage a little more safely as well. And then, like, it just kind of comes down to just, you got to make the right reads, right? You got to make the calls, take the chances. It's not always going to pan out, but when you do get a chance to capitalize, you just got to kind of push that advantage. Something I think Steve, as we saw even in the last winter semi set, is clearly very capable of doing.
We're currently resetting this game. There was a connection error, so we'll get things back to where they were. And this will be Min controlled by Zersol, and Steve or Alex or Enderman selected by D-Dog. And as we mentioned, Zersol went undefeated 12-0, ranked #1. That's quite the pristine record coming in here, Vicky. But you know that when you get to this final four, the four that are the best of the best over hundreds that have entered, everything changes, and you need to quickly adapt to how your opponent is playing and really understand and learn their tendencies, I imagine, as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we see some of these familiar faces in bracket before in our previous tournaments, Jordan, and I think that highlights a lot of consistency from a lot of these top-level players that have that experience. I mean, Zersol is actually a player that not only has played at their locals offline, but has won a lot at those locals, if not places within the top 5. So that's experience to note here, as D-Dog has absolutely turned the situation around, and you have platforms this time around on small battlefield, exactly what you would like in this matchup as a Minecraft Steve, or in this case, Enderman.
And keep in mind, they have reset where the stocks were back before the connection error, so it's a 3-2 stock advantage for Zersol. But as Vicky pointed out, you got some platforms, you got some options. You don't have to take the busy freeway to try and get to Zersol and Min. You got some side streets here.
Absolutely. So I kind of see it already paying off. Like, look at all this. Look, knocked them so far down, man. Even with those arms, could not recover. This is actually tremendously huge right now for my man D-Dog, and these openings, they are presenting themselves. These are the times to strike, but Zersol, obviously, as we said, got here for a reason, knows how to put some space between the two. But again, it is easy to get in there, or not easy to get in there, but when you do, man, you just maximize those opportunities.
And D-Dog has essentially tied up this game here, 2 stocks apiece. And with these platforms, has now found alternate ways to get closer to Zersol. But Min and that Mega Watch is going to go ahead and send D-Dog off the side of the stage. Now a 2-1 stock advantage. And Vicky, at this point, you can be a little bit more patient if you are Zersol.
Absolutely. Now you have the lead, but you have to watch out with that Minecraft cart. Almost called out the jump right there, but Zersol, knowing better, opt to go for that ledge invincibility to be extra safe. Because again, having that stock lead is so big now that it's going to force D-Dog to approach. But if we don't match out of those Minecraft carts, it's going to be disastrous here for Zersol.
Some well-timed TNT that's going to send Zersol and Min flying towards the top of the screen. Zersol trying to recover, but D-Dog doing a great job of just controlling the stage at this point. Misses with the down air. Zersol, perfect counter, and now Zersol has a chance to retaliate, but it's still D-Dog hanging in there on that final stock, EE.
Yeah, he is doing a fantastic job. And yeah, this is kind of like, that's kind of like the writing on the wall, right? Like at so many junctures of that match, we saw the same thing. And all the time, it didn't necessarily lead to the stock being lost, but the damage was there. When you're well over 100% like that, Zerz will understand, I just got to keep pushing my advantage. I have the length, I have the range, and I have the victory for that first game.
And this is where things get interesting, Vicky, because all 4 of our players right now did not change their fighter at all during the latter round, the round of 32. But looking at this matchup, it just seems like Zerzal, Min, the range that they have combined might just be too much for D-Dog and Steve. So do you think about a possible fighter or character change here?
Well, upon some research, I noticed that D-Dog actually has a Mario as well, but that doesn't really help your case here in this situation because you kind of face the same issue. So in getting in against Min, even Mario as a secondary wouldn't help D-Dog despite that familiarity with that fighter. So maybe sticking to your guns and playing Enderman may feel more comfortable for D-Dog, and especially now that you have regular Battlefield, you have even an extra platform to work with aside from that small Battlefield that we had before.
Zerzal Min using that ram to perfection. It comes out so quickly, EE, almost quicker than you can react to it.
I think I think that has been proven by a lot of these exchanges that we've seen thus far, which is why you see Zerzal just dominating again, kind of already off to a familiar start. You see him go for that up smash, trying to maybe close up the stock early, but you know what? When you got that megawatt on Tuck 2, that'll get the job done.
Zerzal taking an early stock from D-Dog. D-Dog trying to get back into this, connects with the fair, sets up the TNT underneath. Zerzal getting juggled at this point. D-Dog trying to regain control. Oh, and is able to get Zerzal into the TNT explosion. And now D-Dog looking like they have a chance to make this thing even, but here is Zerzal with that control once again, Vicky.
Yeah, immediately retaliating by getting right back towards the stage. I like what I'm seeing from D-Dog and is going to have some space to try to get in some extra materials, but the issue here is that Zerzal is still alive, and when D-Dog isn't able to put on the same amount of pressure, it can be more confidence for Zerzal as he proceeds through this game.
Chance for the grab, the back throw coming out from D-Dog. Mining for some more materials. Nice parry, can't do anything with that though. Another megawatt connecting for Zerzal. And we see that megawatt come out, EE, as soon as D-Dog gets close to KO range. That megawatt will make its appearance.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just, that's kind of your go-to, right? If you're Min, you understand that is going to go ahead and just knock some heads straight off, as we've seen on multiple occasions. Actually in a position right now where he could very well still go up 2 stocks if my man D-Dog is not too careful, and he's finding himself in the same situation. You find yourself off stage just getting batted back and forth, and eventually, man, that percent adds up being a stock. And there it is. I hate the commentators cursing, but I gotta call it like I see it. I gotta do it.
Just a punishing megawatt that is just plowing through this minecart here, Vicky, and it seems like anything that D-Dog is trying to do to apply pressure, Zerzal and Min have an answer for.
And aside from that mental pressure, when you are forced off stage and when you are taking a lot of damage, you have to also know that Zerzal is up a game right now and is on match point. So following up off of those blocks too is going to be a double whammy, a double-edged sword for D-Dog to have to deal with, because now they're at the disadvantage and they're rounding almost 100%. No more gonna live with that megawatt coming through, taking it, and on top of that, without dropping a stock, is Zerzal continuing on this streak.
Yeah, the raid certainly helps with that. So Zerzal making quick work, continues. They're undefeated. They're now 14-0 ever since they made it to the round of 32. They're going to advance to winners finals here in just a second. But EE, we are really seeing somebody optimize Min. That's what you said. This is a fighter that hasn't been around for too long. You're still learning more about how to utilize her, and we saw some absolute perfection displayed there by Zerzies. Impressive stuff.
It's not so much just what you do, like utilize the fact you can really keep characters at bay, but how do you turn that into damage as well? And I think that's something that he's just had down packed. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, anytime you're off on the left or right side of the stage, you're getting taxed just to come back and recover. And the problem with that is, as that percentage rise, keep highlighting it, man, you're going to lose that stock eventually. And it just became such a snowball effect. It was just too much to stop. And you see why I just kind of sliced through that. That was clean.
Not ready for snow yet, by the way, EE. I'm still trying to chill in the fall here. I like my leaves changing colors and my pumpkin flavored everything. Let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket here after Zerzal just putting in quick work against D-Dog. That'll have essentially a rematch when it comes to fighters here, because we saw Jake advance with that Steve and Alex. So Jake taking on Zerzal in our winners final. That'll send D-Dog versus Marks XM2. And what's fascinating is if you get a chance to watch this, you're going to see how Zerzal plays against a Steve. And if you're Jake here, Vicky, and you're doing your homework in between these matches, you're maybe seeing some things from D-Dog that didn't work against Zerzal, and you're probably taking some mental notes as far as, all right, I'm going to try this, or I'm noticing this. It seems like it'll be very fascinating to see what Jake decides to do with their iteration of Steve and Alex.
Yeah, that's that low-key upper hand that we may have Jake kind of come out with, especially since Jake seems to have a lot of experience with the Minecraft Steve under their belt. You've noted that not only has Jake performed a lot within these Wi-Fi tournaments, but they also have performed offline too, even being able to place 25th out of over 1,000 competitors at a national tournament. So that's a lot of experience that Jake is bringing into this bracket. But as we highlighted before, Zerzal is not unfamiliar with this case here. So this is going to be a really exciting match to determine what you could do in a matchup that doesn't favor a character like Minecraft Steve.
And Jake close the gap, going with Alex here against Zerzal in this impenetrable Min that is just throwing up all sorts of arms that you can't get by. You got some platforms on the stage here in Pokemon Stadium 2 EE, so a chance for maybe Jake to find something that they can do. We saw such great utilization of that minecart in their opening set also.
Yeah, it's just, you know what, and that's something D-Dog really tried to use too, the minecart, but that kind of was a little ineffective, I must say. You know, one thing about, you know, you could say Jake, okay, he has the advantage of being able to see exactly how Zerzal plays, but yeah, you can see it, but can you do anything about it? That is the question that must follow afterwards, and, you know, kind of with this blistering start we're seeing from Zerzal, he's pretty much just picking up where he left off in winter semis.
And Vicky, when Zerzal is feeling that pressure up close from Jake, as he goes ahead and takes the first stock from Jake, the quick use of the dash attack, the throws to instantly create that space once again. Zerzal knows exactly what they're doing and where they need to operate.
Absolutely. That's why you're also seeing Zerzal continue on this pressure. That's why Zerzal's only taken 20% since the start of this match, which has been already a minute. And the way that Zerzal pushing Jake off out of that boundary and unable to even get to that crafting table it really highlights the matchup here. It really shows the difficulty that you have with Minecraft Steve just trying to jump into that space, but Zerzal doing a really good job at keeping Jake at bay.
And Jake was up close for a minute, but once again, Zerzal able to quickly increase that gap. Here comes the back throw, and now it's all about what Zerzal has been doing great. The edge guarding, well defended by Jake. Jake trying to drop down and punish the whiff. Able to do so, and now it's Jake's opportunity to try and let trap. No luck right there as Zerzal once again full stage control. EE no issues, up 3-1.
I feel so bad that Nair killed, man, but again, that Mega One, I'm telling you, bro, it just does so much, and it is really an uphill battle for Jake. Not willing to say by any means this set is over, but he's really gonna have to kind of slow down and readjust heading into that game number 2, because it's looking like this first chapter has already been decided in this battle of winners finals. You can just see no ability to slow down. It's like Zerzal just always on go.
And Zerzal, what amazes me, Vic, you know, keep pointing it out, is just how quickly they're able to get back to where they want to be in their sweet spot and their zoning. It really seems like Jake can't spend much time up close because Zerzal has got so many options to cover everything. And there's the megawatt right to the kisser, and that is a quick game taken by Zerzal. And it's all about Min. At this point, it might be the Zerzal bracket, Vicky.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what you can really do in terms of swapping out what character you feel comfortable with, because as we highlighted before, Jordan, a lot of our competitors today only stuck with the characters that we're seeing them use first. So I'm wondering, are we going to see a character swap up? Because obviously this matchup, it's difficult. Even though you have some platforms to work with in the past, we've seen small battlefield, regular battlefield, and now Pokemon Stadium. I'm wondering here, is that going to be enough? Because at the moment, Zerzal is putting on so much pressure, and like you mentioned, the perfect spacing for those grabs have allowed Zerzal to maintain that middle stage positioning.
Zerzal just one game away from taking everybody's candy here, EE, and this has just been a stellar sight to see so far. Zerzal has just been dominant, and here is the character change, the first one since the round of 32 in the ladder. Jake deciding to go with Mario. Let's see here, EE, what Jake and Mario can do. If they can get up close and start to box a little bit with Zerzal, this will be fascinating.
I think Jake kind of thought to himself, like, okay, I'm not gaining anything as far as like getting out of disadvantage when it comes to the range, but when I'm getting in, maybe my combo game is just a little bit more strong, right? That's probably, I would imagine, what Jake's thinking, especially after a 3-stock, right? At that point, you understand, like, you have to switch it up. try and readjust the gameplay, and hopefully this will be the difference maker. I'm seeing already, you see, just being able to get in there and these combos, these up airs really starting to add on and just tack on that damage and really kind of putting himself in a pretty favorable position right out the gate.
Jake and the Mario decision, it's paid off already, taking the advantage by percentage early here, Vicky, and it really seems like Jake is having so much more success of staying up close to Zerzal here.
Absolutely, and we notice here too that the moment that Mario gets into your personal space, he gets so much more than we see from Minecraft Alex, and that's the benefit here. But when you lose your jump and you're off stage and he saved it, that's going to be key because you want to make sure you could save your jump if you're getting pressured out, especially if Zerzal wants to call out your jumps. And the up smash out of shield, evening up this game, even though he was at 137%, looking a lot better in comparison to what we have seen whenever it comes to these competitors versus Zerzal.
An impressive turnaround, because it felt like Jake was hanging out in disadvantage all day long, but was able to avoid the KO and quickly turns the tables. And now, can Jake build up enough percentage on the second stock for Zerzal to put themselves in a great situation? Only gets 20. You would have loved to have gotten a little bit more there, EE.
I mean, Jake should feel great about himself. That's the first time in 2 games that Zerzal's actually lost the stock. All right, so right there, you're already doing a heck of a job. I'm not mad at it at any means. And like I said, getting so much more when you're able to just kind of close in. Love that up B right there too. Just kind of using a little bit of anti-air techniques as well. And that air dodge was so smart. You're just seeing, he just seems a lot more comfortable right now. And Zerzal, who's only been facing off against Minecraft characters, is probably like, oh, kind of get his footing back for, kind of a change here in the Mario.
And this is what we're seeing, Vicky, is just the ability to punish so quickly, because there is quite the cooldown for Zerzal and Min Min if some of those arms don't connect, and the quickness of Jake able to capitalize on those opportunities.
Yeah, you see Zerzal also trying to go for these hard reads. I like the patience right now, going in for the low recovery, but Jake has no issue trying to contest that by the ledge. He's got the lead, and now he's got the stock lead on top of that, and he wants to maintain this pressure. The spot dodge, knowing immediately that Zerzal is a very grab-heavy player.
And this is the story here. The first character change at all between these 4 players here in the finals goes to Jake as he goes with Mario, and now the back row is 1 stock away from tying things up. Don't forget, the winner of this set will win our first prize pack as they win winner's final and will get a chance to be a spectator the rest of the way. Jake, here it is. How about that, EE? And Jake quickly snatching the momentum.
That jab reset was so good, bro. Like, you're already in a situation where you are pressuring, in a situation where you might not even think, like, again, you don't think Mario is going to be able to just kind of deal with the range of Min Min as well as actually did, and that was the difference maker. Like, Jake just threw him a little bit of a curveball and just beamed him right off that game number 2 to force a little overtime. I love it.
And Vicky, Mario welcoming Min Min to the Nintendo family with extreme prejudice right there. And now, what is the change for Min Min? I mean, we didn't find ourselves thinking about this at all. That is the first game that Zerzal has dropped ever since they made it to the ladder in the round of 32. It's the first time Zerzal's probably scratching their head thinking, I gotta fix a few things here.
Yeah, basically Mario throwing out their own arms in this matchup, and it's really been proven how helpful it is. And since we have Town and City, it's even gonna be better for Jake. I like the decision making here because you had Zerzal up an entire game. There was just one more game that Zerzal needed to take to win here in the winners finals. So it was all or nothing that Jake knew that they had to swap up over here, and look how it's working out for them. Ready with 84% onto Zerzal, and Jake is still continuing on this pressure.
Can Jake shock the world by stealing this set from Zerzal? Zerzal looked absolutely dominant, just plowing through Steve and Alex up until this final do-or-die opportunity for Jake. And now Jake, with the switch to Mario, has all of a sudden taken complete control of this set, and EE races out to a 3-2 lead.
You kind of get the feeling that just, taking the first game off him in this round of 32 isn't enough. He wants to take that first set, and he is well on his way. This is just a sensational start that we're seeing from Jake. And now that he's in the lead too, able to kind of control the pacing as well. I mean, Mario does have those fireballs, and look at that, just punishing, expecting the spot dodge, running up there, getting the grab. Right now, you can tell Zerzal is just under duress, and Jake is like, he is just brimming with confidence. This is looking dangerous.
Zerzal has no answers, and Vicky, it goes back to the fact that Jake is now able to close the airspace and can just get there a few frames quicker and just punish Zerzal. It's 3-1 at this point.
Are frames even okay here? Just the jab box to prevent Zerzal from even getting anything done. We have an entirely reverse situation where Jake is up 3 stocks still versus Zerzal and is continuing on this pressure. Look at these empty hops, not trying to overcommit to at the same time. This adjustment has just been provided so quickly. Even he's gonna get punished by that up smash, but you can see how Jake is playing so much more confidently, even landing on top of Zerzal, which was pretty brave. So Zerzal's gonna be able to get that punish with the Nair Megawatt.
Oh, there's that neutral air that gives EE nightmares all night long coming out from Zerzal to make things 2-1, but still, Jake in full control at this point here, EE. Zerzal, you got to play essentially perfect the rest of the way.
Yeah, and you know, it's a lot to ask for, but sometimes those perfect stocks, they can come to you when you're under duress. Like, you understand you just have to respond. It's all or nothing, do or die, and that is definitely the situation that Zerzal has found himself in. It's so hard to just imagine that we're even in this situation because it was just not too long ago a 3 stock was delivered to open up this set. But my goodness, how the times they do a change.
Jake trying to come back from 0-1 down to take this winner's final in our first prize pack, just 1 stock away. Zerzal on the edge at 122, has got plenty of rage, but Jake trying to close this out, not trying to get down to this final stock. Zerzal here trying to maintain some stage control, but here comes the punishes once again. Jake trying to look for that home run, no luck right here, and right now, Vicky, Zerzal keeping their composure.
They are, and now they are able to reverse the situation, but at 128%, look at Jake swinging with his noggin. Up smash coming left and right, and that's because they know that Zerzal's jumping a lot, and at this percent, that would definitely do it in right here.
Well, the palms are getting warmer. Final stock, winner's final. This is what you all hope for, but here it is. Jake, and say my name, it's a me, Mario, as Jake goes ahead and takes winner's final. Just an unbelievable display of adaptation here, EE. Could have stuck with the hard-headedness and gone with Steve, but realizes that ain't working. I'm switching to Mario and has nothing but success. Essentially 2 O's, Zerzal, once they switch to Mario.
That was one of the most impressive 180s I've ever seen. Like, get 3 stock to open things up and then dominantly take the next 2 games. We don't see that very often, especially in competition of this level. So my hat is certainly off to Jake because he just went off. So I know we're going to see him a little bit later, but man, Jake, that's just one of those times where it's just like, I believe I'm the better player and I want to show that. And I think he did that in that set.
Let's go ahead and check out the bracket as Jake, an unbelievable turn of events. Zerzal was dominating everybody, hadn't lost a single game, and then Jake takes 2 straight games to take winner's final. That means Jake will take home that gaming chair, gaming headset, Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021 trophy, the 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, the backpack, the Switch carrying case, the Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, and the Nintendo vs. badge and lanyard. So, Jake, showing the world that you don't have to stick with the same character here, Vicky. And now that brings up a matchup of Mark's M2 as the Mewtwo and D-Dog that also went as Enderman. So we'll see. I imagine they'll go with what they've gone with the rest of this time here, Vicky, in this first matchup. But maybe after seeing the success that Jake had by switching to Mario, they might be a little bit more open to possibly checking out the other 80-plus characters on this roster.
Yeah, 82 characters, and you could go any of these other characters to mix up these matchups, just like we saw Jake do. And I'm wondering if that swap over to Mario kind of sparked up some inspiration, because we noted it before, D-Dog also has a pretty strong Mario as that secondary, but maybe didn't feel confident enough taking out the Mario after playing on Minecraft Alex for so long. So I'm wondering, are we going to see that, or since this matchup is going to be completely different, it's not going to be the Min-Min just yet, as Zerzal is sitting in that loser's finals, but you have the Mewtwo that you have to work with. And we saw what happened before within the Minecraft Steve versus Mewtwo matchup. It can be a little difficult when you're light and big at the same time to try to find your way in.
So it will be Enderman versus Mewtwo, D-Dog and Marksim 2 not making any type of character changes. And what we saw from Marksim 2 way back in our first set here, EE, was just trying to get out of disadvantage. It was very difficult. Jake was keeping them in that disadvantage all day long, and right now, kind of the same story as D-Dog. Just takes complete control out the gate.
I was gonna say, he's just trying to get out of this Minecraft torment chamber that he's found himself in, man. Like, his brother's like, can I get a different matchup? so rough. I mean, yes, it's cool that you have the experience, sure, but you understand that D-Dog, he's a very deadly player as well. Like, he didn't make it to this point for no reason. So you can already see just playing around, utilizing the platforms really to his advantage as you see him able to just do a little bit of farming in between getting those blocks up and just getting himself in a position where it's like, okay, you got to come to me. Boom, you're just going to get smacked around.
E-Dog with full stage control. It's MarkSim2 trying to regain a little bit of neutral here, but that is going to go ahead and be an impressive aerial that knocks off MarkSim2 to take the first stock. And Vicky, it seems like the same issue we saw in the first set with MarkSim2, just dancing around trying to just get comfortable, but you can't because you got all these mine carts and other items out there that are keeping you off balance.
You also got to worry about a wall that's just being built in front of your face in that moment. You can't really utilize the platform canceling that Mewtwo's recovery with the up B really provides there to try to mix up your movement in terms of approach. But here, D-Dog is doing exactly what we had saw from the previous matchup when we had Mark's Mewtwo try to face off earlier against Zerzal. So now with that stock gone, you have only one stock to really work off of this. And D-Dog sitting comfortably at 3, still keeping up this pressure and having Diamond and Gold at the same time on top of that.
D-Dog hunting for a 3 stock against MarkSim2 in this opening game of our loser semifinals, but that disable going to work well up into the up smash, and that is the first stock taken by MarkSim2. So now if you can just maintain some composure here, EE, have that champion mindset, maybe you can get back into this one if you're MarkSim2.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's certainly far from impossible, right? Like, I think Marks kind of understands, like, all right, I've had this matchup plenty of times. I know what this character is going to do, essentially. It's just about getting in there. But as Vicky said, a lot of those teleport options kind of being neutralized by just those blocks, that good placement. And the fact, too, that D-Dog, right now, all I can see is the D stands for destruction, because that's all that was put on that table right there. I must confess, as the JV2 stock is delivered.
Yeah, diamond coated fair. Nobody's going to want to have a taste of that. So that is the first game, favor of D-Dog. And already it's just a matter of keeping MarkSim2 off balance here, Vicky. And MarkSim2 never really looked comfortable, never really looked like they had full control of that entire game. We want to say character change, maybe think about it, just because there's so much Mewtwo that can be hit at any time. But what do you see as the adjustment here possibly as we get set for game 2?
Well, we saw the tricky disable finding success, but that was that one-time opportunity where you're already forced off the stage. You were getting pressured out to the point where you were put by the ledge, and that's not the area that you want to be, especially up against a character like Minecraft Steve. Pressure is going to be necessary. Pressure is going to be necessary.
And EE, what is Mewtwo looking for? We hear the prototypical glass cannon. If you're Mewtwo, you can rack up the damage, but boy, are you quite a target. Are you trying to play a zoning game? Are you trying to rush down? Where are you trying to be? Because we really haven't quite seen that consistency from MarkSim2 as far as, hey, this is where they operate, this is where they want to be.
I think creeping in is kind of like your best bet when, like, you know, you're kind of starting it off, right? Like, you want to win these neutral exchanges, you want to get in there. Mewtwo is really good at comboing. Like, Mewtwo, can really string together a lot of those big hits and kind of finish off stocks early. The problem is, you know, you have a character like Steve who's just so good at just keeping you out if he really wants to, and then he can do the same thing, like push the pace, push the advantage if he's in that kind of state where it's like more beneficial to him. So really, I mean, Mark's best bet here, if he doesn't switch characters, like we're kind of like nudging him to, is just to just slow the pace down. And, you know, by any means, you got a zone. You got plenty of time on the clock. Just be patient and let it kind of come to you.
Just some subtle hinting. We saw our only character change for all 4 of these competitors since the latter round, the round of 32, take place in winners finals, and it led to a 2-0 sweep basically for Jake when he switched from Steve to Mario. Will that be some inspiration? We're seeing a little bit of time go until we set this second set. It's kind of like that replay review in football here, where the longer it takes here, you figure something is up. Maybe we're going to see that character change. Maybe we'll see, because Mewtwo is yet to really have much success against any of the Steves in this tournament. It seems like at these moments, it's when you almost have to, is it fair to say, have some humility here, and just say, hey, listen, what I thought was going to work wasn't going to. Let me try and adjust and pivot.
I mean, even in like the semis we saw where it did end up going to game 3, that was primarily, I still think, because of Yoshi's. I still think because of those close quarters, and even that one almost got away from him. So here, you know, you're on the loser side of things, you find yourself back in the same situation. You know, I get it, right? You've kind of got this far with Mewtwo. Maybe you don't have the same level of faith in your other characters. That's perfectly fine. But at the same time, we have to kind of address what we're talking about. You got to go back to the drawing board. You got to slow things down, assess, and don't try and force your way in there. Just, again, let the gameplay develop. Take your time. Those openings are going to present themselves. You just have to capitalize and make the most of it, especially when he's off stage.
Vicky, can Mewtwo establish any type of zoning game? Because we did see the two Steves and the Enderman and the Alex and everybody else that's on the bus struggle against Min Min when Min Min was able to establish that zoning game and keep them out. Is that something Mewtwo can replicate with its kit?
Well, Shadow Ball being that primary tool that Mewtwo wants to keep that pressure up, I feel like it's a little bit different in this situation when Min Min has those arms that could close up that range and could be extremely pressuring when it comes to trying to jump in, but you also have to deal with the arms that extend, and then the additional extra Dragon Beam that comes out of one of the arms is an additional tool that Min Min has to keep up that pressure. But to an extent, we also saw Marks utilize the Shadow Ball when the blocks were broken and the weaker blocks were being used by Minecraft Steve. So if we see Marks kind of utilize that more often when the opportunity presents itself, you could also close in the gap by using the Shadow Ball to try to go in. But it's not as fast as we would see Min Min keep up the pressure from afar.
D-Dog just needs one more game, and then they will meet Zerzal in a rematch in losers finals, and the winner of that loser final will get a chance to take home one of our prize packs. But right now, we're still waiting for this second game to get going here. Will we see a change possibly from Mewtwo to something else? We'll see. But what's interesting to me is that you've got this kit with Steve that can do such a good job of sniffing out so many different options, and with Mewtwo, there's only so much you can do when you're that big, and you've got that much of a hurt box that you really have to try and make sure you're controlling the stage, and we just haven't quite seen that yet.
Yeah, it sucks when you're like not only a big target too, but you're a little lighter. Like his frame is deceiving, right? That tail is thick, but there ain't nothing in it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just air. So, when you're getting slapped around and you're dying like sub 100 or like just a little bit over there, you're just kind of like it gets frustrating. It really does because believe it or not, like Steve, he's a hard hitting character, especially when he's got the right that iron out, that diamond. Like a lot of these moves really connect too, and he's so good at just stringing together with the blocks. You see him start a lot of stuff off the up tilt and just take it to just you can kind of get taxed for like 40, something like 50%, like when he really gets something strong going. So it's hard to maintain maybe a good headspace sometimes when you're just like understanding your character's getting tossed and killed a little earlier than you would like. But it's all a mental game, so just stay engaged and you'll be okay. Hopefully.
It is. You just have to be engaged. So while we're waiting for this to get going here, I got to get your guys' thoughts on Sora. Obviously, Sora in Smash, that's super exciting. Everybody was thrilled about that. You've had a chance to kind of play with the character, commentate a little bit. Vicky, let's start with you. What have you noticed about Sora? What might we expect, if that is possibly one of the fighters, one of the characters that we decide to see Marks M2 go to?
That'd be so interesting, and I would absolutely be super excited. Of course, so happy that Sora's in Smash Brothers. But I feel like the character in general has a very unorthodox kit, so it took some time for a lot of these competitive players to kind of get used to Sora's kit. And if anything, since Sora hasn't been out for even a month yet, there's still so much being uncovered for that character. So I feel like a lot of the DLC characters that we've been able to witness a lot of our competitors bring out has refined the way that these characters have played, because when they first were released, a lot of people didn't feel comfortable because they didn't kind of feel like the same type of fighters that they were probably used to with their previous mains. So as time has gone by, it's really interesting to see how a lot of these players have refined those kits.
And that's what's really cool here, and you talked about it. The majority of the DLC characters all have such a unique playstyle, right? Or a mechanic that is unique to them. And I think that just adds so much more depth to this game. All right, all that time, same matchup. So we were probably just getting some technical issues figured out. Let's see if Marks M2 has figured out a different strategy with Mewtwo, because so far it has just been stuffed by a couple of Steves so far in this tournament. Now you go and you get a chance here with a little bit larger stage and Kalos here. Are we going to see anything different here, or is this still the same story as Marks M2 already trailing 57-0?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it kind of looking like the same story, at least from the start, right off the gate. But you see some powerful Shadow Claws just kind of will himself back in. This is what he needs to do. Opportunity to present itself. You're closing the gap right there. Don't let him get comfortable. Don't let him set up. You've got to keep that pressure on. It's hard to do safely there, but obviously you can see there are ways to get in there. These Shadow Claws are really closing the gap, and I love how aggressive he's being off the stage. This is what I want to see. Even if you don't get the hit, just put the pressure out there. Make him think twice about how he's going to come back to the stage.
So Marks M2, after struggling out of the blocks, has quickly taken advantage of this match. And now it's D-Dog who's got a little bit more stage control. Marks M2, as we know, tries to get out of that disadvantage state, does so, resets neutral, but already eats another fair coming out from D-Dog. And Vicky, you pointed out, using more of those shadow balls, not necessarily charging them up to just create a little bit of zoning. That has really kept D-Dog off their rhythm, off their pattern so far.
Yeah, I think it's super important that you can see the way that D-Dog is now trying to forcibly get around these shadow balls, but the way to mix up Marks right there now is living in Marks' head rent-free. That was a great way to even this up, but still not going to have the advantage just yet, and has to watch out for those shadow claws, just like EE was saying, because that's a lot of the space maker that Marks is also making to close in that gap and to fully take advantage of what it is to finally get close to D-Dog.
And already, just the juggling by D-Dog that's going to send MarksM2 off the side of the stage. And MarksM2 trying to take this second stop off of D-Dog. But now D-Dog is kind of settled in a little bit here, EE, and starting to apply a little bit more pressure here.
Now it's the kicker strategy, right? Make him wait a little bit, but I'll tell you what, that man's got ice cold running through his veins, and now we are down to even stock here. Really good for D-Dog, considering how this thing started, and now you're seeing him again just stack up and rack up the damage. Mark really needs to kind of close this. This is where that clutch factor really comes into play, or else D-Dog is walking away with this 2-0.
And D-Dog using the blocks to provide some different approach options, and now just shielding himself with those blocks. And there's the TNT. MarksM2's got to get out of there. That neutral layer will create a little bit of separation, but again, the meteor coming from that fair, and it's all D-Dog at this point here, Vicky, just playing around with MarksM2, and that'll do it. MarksM2, unfortunately, taking a ride out of this tournament, gets eliminated, and it'll be D-Dog advancing to losers finals to take on Zerzal. And that's what we saw, even though it was an impressive come from behind in that first stock for MarksM2. It was all about D-Dog, and just again, those blocks really inhibited any type of approach that we were going to see from MarksM2.
Yeah, the pressure was so heavy here, too. At the very end, you could notice the cart getting the command grab option going in, and the higher percent you are, the more difficult it is for you to get out of that situation. And while MarksM2 was doing a really good job, you still had D-Dog continuing on the pressure, not only maintaining center stage, but still racking up a lot of that percent for that cart to put on that pressure.
That'll set up the losers final. Let's go ahead and check out the bracket here as we prepare for our final set before we switch over to regions 1, 2, 3, and 4. It'll be Zerzal taking on D-Dog. That'll be a rematch in which Zerzal went 2-0 and a quick 2-0 over D-Dog in the winter semifinals. Here's the question, EE. We're all thinking it right now, right? D-Dog has used Enderman the entire time exclusively. Zerzal lost when Jake, who is also using the Steve Alex Enderman trio, switched to Mario. Does D-Dog consider a change here, considering the fact that Jake had so much success against Zerzal?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking.
What you thinking?
You follow the blueprint to success that Jake laid out. So we stick with Enderman for game number 1. We probably get washed. We understand we probably get washed. And then games 2 and 3, we're piling a new character and hopefully to success.
See, I thought you just said worst right there, where you throw in that R like your grandma does sometimes. Because there's a difference between getting washed and then you got worst. All right, well, Zerzal and D-Dog getting set up here. It will be fascinating to see if we see that character change, of course, Vicky. And what was fascinating to me also was the way that Zerzal, who was so dominant against all the Steves, Alex, and Endermans, all of a sudden looked like they couldn't do much as soon as Jake switched to Mario. And that was because, is it fair to say, Mario was able to close the gap and was able to punish in those moments that Steve and Alex and Enderman weren't quite quick enough to get to.
Yeah, you can tell that Zerzal also has that matchup experience against this character, and I think that's really important, because if you want to keep swinging with the same game plan that didn't work before, you're gonna have to expect the same results. So exactly what EE said, follow what Jake's plan was, basically panned out for you to follow in their footsteps, and do something similar. Maybe swap over to a character that you were feeling confident in before you were playing the Minecraft Steve, which in this case, looking at D-Dog's history, was Mario 2. So is that Mario even gonna be enough in this matchup, or is Zerzal going to take those mental notes to determine what to do differently against that matchup that Zerzal fell under?
And that's what Zerzal might have to figure out here. EE is, listen, I'm great when I can zone and I can box and I can be in my happy place, but what happens when someone gets a little too close to me? What happens when I start to feel that pressure? What can I do to counter that? You've had a chance to sort of stew over that for an entire set after really you thought you were going to cruise to the victory. All of a sudden, a character change and you get mopped up. This is a chance for Zerzal to sort of reclaim their dominance and say, hey, no, listen, there's a reason why I went 12-0 coming into this. Let me show you why.
100%. And we all know, like, you can learn more from defeat than you can learn from victory. So I don't think, taking that L was necessarily the worst thing in the world. It just kind of gives you an opportunity to bounce back. And as Vicky said earlier, like, there's over 80 characters in this game. You can utilize that to your advantage. And I think D-Dog, not only Mario, the same costume, bro, married to the strategy, so that costume is indeed appropriate. Let's get it.
Oh, D-Dog was watching film, so D-Dog making the change to Mario, just like Jake had not changed characters up until this finals against Zerzal. Losers final, Zerzal. Can they figure out the solution against Mario, or will D-Dog also make the switch and find success? So far, it's paying off, Vicky. It is paying off.
Absolutely. You don't even need platforms in this situation. Look at the way that D-Dog is playing this. Immediately getting closer. Zerzal gets the punish out of that parry into a grab. Where are you going to go as Zerzal? You want some of that space to be able to play that keep away game that Min Min loves. But D-Dog isn't giving Zerzal that opportunity with these spot dodges.
You mentioned optimization, EE. Well, yes, there's the optimization of your offense, but also the optimization of how do you deal with things in disadvantage as Zerzal able to take.
Yeah, I think if I'm Zerzal, I'm just kind of having nightmares right now. As far as Mario, like, we might actually see the only person who's not excited for the live-action Mario movie, just based off what he's had to go through thus far. Like, this has been such a challenge for him. But you know what? He's kind of rebounding in the right way too, especially if he's anticipating a rematch with Jake later on in the grand final side of things. So for him to take this first game, I think that's going to be very, very good for his confidence just going into it.
All right, we pick up the action, still 3-2 advantage as well. And when you continue to take a look at what we're seeing here at this point, you've got Zerzal that's now on their second stock, and you've got D-Dog with that switch to Mario finding tremendous success on this change, but not quite as efficient with this Mario, Vicky, as we saw with Jake.
And that's what I was thinking here. Zerzal noting the matchup like he had just previously played against Jake and now bringing that matchup knowledge into this final game here for the losers finals. Zerzal wants to keep up that record. Lost it to Jake, but still has another shot here, but has to go through an entirely different Mario in this case. And that's why Zerzal is playing extremely patient, constantly dashing back to force D-Dog to approach.
Oh, good catch. All right, so we're all good here. Well, we are all good, at least us are, but I can't really say the same about my man D-Dog. The pressure right now is pretty much unrelenting. I do like the fact that Zerzal at least is like, it doesn't look like he's too deterred, right, Vicky, from the fact that he had to kind of deal with the fact of what happened with him and Jake. Like, the mindset has clearly not changed. Like, this man believes he's the best player in the bracket, still trying to prove that. And he really just has to get, through 2 of these games to do just that. But D-Dog making it so difficult, brilliantly timed on that up smash.
Maybe too much confidence, EE, because Zerzal keeps landing on top of D-Dog, feeling like he could still do this. But when you have no platforms to mix up your landing, you know that D-Dog's going to go in for that punish with the up smash out of shield, catch your landing. And now D-Dog jumping a lot around Zerzal, wants to try to avoid that, try to keep the jumping to a minimum, or else you're going to have Zerzal actually contest you, get you off stage, and try to catch your jump.
Oh my God, he almost caught a body right there with that VKO. Hold on now. Tries to run it back with this right now. I love the back and forth that we're seeing. This is what you want out of a losers finals. Both of these guys just clawing at the opportunity to try and get to grands and not disappointing on any front. FD, the stage where it's just you, your opponent, and a whole lot of action as Zerzal able to clutch that one out and take game one.
Gets my breath, guys, from seeing all that right there. Zerzal able to figure things out against D-Dog. And going back to the optimization here, EE, you get a chance to play against different fighters, different characters, and you figure out what you need to do against specific matchups. It seems like Zerzal is a very quick study.
Couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, it really came down. I bet Zerzal too was thinking like, oh boy, here we go again. But you know what? Honestly, considering for a fact that if you do make it past here, Jake is going to go tomorrow. you should want this kind of experience, right? Like it works out in your favor if you're able to get through, because you already have the Steve matchup down to a T, right? You know what I'm saying? You have nothing to worry about there. This is invaluable experience, but that's really good for D-Dog too, because he knows he can win. He didn't get that game there, but he's that close. He knows he can get the job done.
So if Zerzal can take one more game, Zerzal will also take home our prize pack. And Zerzal learning more about this Mario matchup, and it's been D-Dog who's made the character change, trying to shake things up, and still all Zerzal at this point, because it seems like Vicky Zerzal is doing a better job of not letting D-Dog close the gap and get up close and box.
And that's the issue right here, and these platforms are going to actually allow D-Dog to continue on that pressure, but like you said, Zerzal doing such a good job at adapting around this matchup, isn't even DIing out in that situation, wants to avoid the fair spike that we saw D-Dog land on Zerzal earlier before, now rolls back towards the stage and wants to maintain that center stage control, but D-Dog's not allowing Zerzal to have any of that.
3-3 still. Zerzal sitting at 121 has got some rage going here. D-Dog trying to knock off the first stock, but it's Zerzal who's got the stage control here, EE. And this is one of those moments in every single game where you feel like you're up against the wall, but you have a chance to really turn things around, and that's exactly what Zerzal's starting to do.
100%, man. Again, getting that first game, you know, having to battle out and go down to the wire, I feel like that was really good for him, actually, in this kind of situation, because it's kind of preparing him, like, okay, this is not going to be easy. We're going to have to be ready for a lot of these times where I got to kind of clutch up. As he boost himself up using these arms to the advantage. Finally, I think that megawatt clipping, and that's going to be enough to take that, especially at that percent. 144 though, so you already know it's a pretty fragile stock he's got to work with right now.
Zerzal just trying to claw out some percentage on the second stock of D-Dog, able to get the down air that's connecting, and Vicky Zerzal was down 136 to 66% and has quickly turned this entire game around and is doing a better job of just being more mobile with Min-Min, it seems like, not just being a statue throwing out arms.
Yeah, more passive aggressive, and I love this playstyle from Zerzal because you can see the option coverage that Zerzal has on top of these platforms too. It's not just staying center stage, but misses the ledge. D-Dog just clipping Zerzal enough to prevent the recovery and evening things up, only taking 31%.
I like it, Vicky, playing passive-aggressive like that roommate that left the dishes out. All right, 58-7, advantage D-Dog, advantage Zerzal on this second stock. D-Dog trying to get back up on stage. No luck with the fireball. And, oh, how about that, EE? That's what you call some edge guarding.
I'm telling you, man, like, essentially right now, this is Zerzal's game to lose, right? Like, you got a full stock lead. You clearly seem a little more comfortable than we saw in that first game. Now, obviously, we understand D-Dog piloting this Mario can really get those combinations going, but he has to get in first, and he's actually being punished quite a bit. A lot more than we saw in that first game. This is really panning out nicely for Zerzal. Love the fact he's able to utilize these arms. We've seen the down airs come out as well. Just everything to kind of keep D-Dog at bay, who might be getting a little desperate here as he has entered those triple digits.
Zerzal, just a few solid connections away from taking home our second prize pack. Just needs one more opportunity. D-Dog trying not to go down without a fight. D-Dog can't recover. And that'll mean Zerzal wins our losers finals and takes care of business 2-0 and is able to exercise those Mario demons, Vicky.
Yeah, Zerzal honestly adjusted so well, despite Zerzal having to face off against two Marios as the revenge of the Minecraft Steves come out in this matchup. That really highlights how important it is to know your matchups, to gather what you are taking in from the match at hand, and then apply it to your future, because you never know when you're going to play against another character that you had just played against before in bracket.
Let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket here as we finally close the door on Losers Final. As we mentioned, Jake taking home all of the prizes from the Winners Final. That means Zerzal gets a chance to also win the grand prize, the gaming chair, the gaming headset, Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, the backpack, the Nintendo Switch carrying case, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, the Nintendo vs. badge, and lanyard. So that'll do it for regions 5, 6, 7, and 8. But don't go anywhere. We'll bring you regions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And before we do that, though, we do want to let you know that this fall, Nintendo and PlayVS have partnered up to offer Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Splatoon 2 as high school sports. So grab your friends and team up to represent your high school for the chance to bring your school a championship title. The fall season has already begun, but you can sign up now to learn more about the spring season at www.playversus.com. Spread the word at your school and visit playversus.com to get your school ready to play in the spring season of 2022. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll bring you the finals for regions 1, 2, 3, and 4 as we continue along on the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021. And welcome back to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo versus US Fall Open 2021. Jordan Kent here, once again, your host. And joining me, we've got EE and Vicky as we bring you the finals of regions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's start with you here, Vicky. We just got done with regions 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we saw a lot of excitement that was capitalized by a late character change in winner's final that proved to be successful.
Yeah, that really highlights how important it is to make sure you have multiple characters under your belt that you could pull out in tournament, because you never know when you need to kind of throw in a mix-up into the fray and make sure that you have a lot of other characters that cover different matchups that are troublesome to your main.
Well, we have the top 4 of hundreds of players here getting a chance to battle it out, of course, for the pride that comes with winning any type of tournament, but a tremendous set of prizes here. You've got a gaming chair, a gaming headset, a Nintendo versus US Fall Open 2021 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, a backpack, a Nintendo Switch carrying case, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, and a Nintendo versus badge and lanyard. So a lot of stuff that you get a chance to take home. We're going to have 2 winners, by the way. We'll have 2 grand prize winners, one from our winners final and another from our losers final. Let's go ahead and check out this bracket as we take a look at the competitors taking place here today for regions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you see them, and here we go. This is going to be very interesting here, EE, because we've got a whole assortment of fighters we're probably going to see. We've got Simons, we've got Byleths, we've got Robs, we've got Wii Fit trainers. It goes to show you that there really isn't this S tier of 1 or 2 playable characters. You talked about it. Now that tournaments have gone online, you're seeing more and more different characters and fighters having success.
Well, this is just a complete 180 from the last bracket we got to do with Steve Mania going on over there, and Mario, of course, as well. But hey, I tell you what, in a game this big and this deep, I love the character diversity we're going to see. You said it best. Simon, Byleth, Robs, Fitz, just going to be running around. I think that's going to make for some really good, interesting matchups. And on the other side of things, too, you're going to see people probably a little bit more comfortable if they have to do some swaps as well, because I believe they have some nice secondaries listed among a lot of these players as well.
Well, the people in the suits are telling me let's cover the rules here. 4-player double elimination bracket, 2 winners, 1 for winners bracket and 1 for losers bracket. Best of 3 games wins the match. No items, smash meter, and random stage selection of 8 curated stages. 3 stocks, 7 minutes. And one name we've got to highlight, Vicky. A familiar face when it comes to these US Open and tournaments put on by Nintendo Versus. Mark SD King already has a title underneath their belt and a familiar face.
Yeah, not only did he go 12-0 undefeated in the latter round, but this is the same player that we've been able to witness tear through a different bracket, Jordan. He was the winner of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate NA Online October 2020 Region 1 and 2 finals, and I believe he came in second place during the May 2020 Region Finals for that Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Ultimate NA Open. So that's experience that Mark SD King is bringing into this bracket from the very get-go.
Battle tested with scars. You love to see that stepping into this tournament here. And EE, there's always this game within the game that is happening during every single set, right? It's of course this character versus this character. What are you looking for? But then the play styles adapt, and it seems like being able to read between the lines and figure out what's really going on in any particular matchup is what high level play is like.
It really. At the end of the day, you can understand, you can have a matchup down, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you have the player down. So being able to kind of pick up on a lot of those patterns and kind of use that as a resource to capitalize and take advantage of certain situations you'll find yourself in, maybe even in the latter parts of the set, is very crucial. And I tell you what, a lot of these game ones go a long way into actually determining who takes the entirety of the set.
We have Casorius versus Mark SD King, 2 heavy zoners essentially, but you've got a lot of tools that can condition your opponent here, Vicky, it seems like. So what do you make of this matchup early on?
I feel like when you have Simon out, you have to be wary about playing by the ledge, because the last thing you want to do is deal with the gyro, not just center stage, but off stage as well, because Simon doesn't have the best recovery here.
And we've seen Rob really dominate a lot of online tournaments here, EE. And with Rob, it's just you have so many different tools at your disposal to cut off approaches. And then, of course, that gyro is just a factor that forces your opponent to think about one more thing out there.
Rob is not the best character in the game, but he dang sure is one of the blueprints for it, if you ask me. I mean, you have a character right here that just has a great zoning ability. He can get up close to you and box. And how about that recovery, too? Like, I mean, I know these gas prices are OD expensive, but not for Rob. He has that in abundance the way he comes back from deep on this stage, man. And you can see what he can do on the stage as well, easily dispatching that first stock and continuing to go to work on the second.
Yeah, Rob with a comfortable 3-2 lead for Mark SD King. We've seen this Rob in action, Vicky, and really to be an effective Rob player, what do you have to keep in mind at all times?
You have to understand what the kit that you're dealing with in terms of your opposing player, what they're playing, and when it comes to what they could do to deal with Gyro. But in this case, Simon doesn't really have much to work with when it comes to the pressure that Mark SD King is providing by the ledge. Not just by the ledge, but overall. And he's got a lot of these platforms that he could utilize to expand on those combos. Finally getting called out by the Holy Water right there, but he is going to be able to drop down and continue on this keep away game. What can you do here as Simon to try to close in this gap when Gyro is consistently putting in the same pressure?
And Mark SD King just bopping Casarius off the stage, and that is a quick 3-0 mop fest EE. And that's that game within the game that we talked about, where you understand the recovery is boo-boo for Casarius and Simon. You got to make sure you're going to do everything you can to just get them off the stage, more so than you would against any other character.
Mark Pressure King, because that's all I saw that whole match was just pressure, unrelenting, did not let up. And you said it best, Jordan, had him off stage and just continued to deliver. You know, we talked about earlier, like we're going to hopefully see like a little bit of variety. After a game number one like that, that's honestly where you start to think like, okay, maybe I got another character in the tank, in the pocket, that'll be a little, more well-equipped to handle this Rob menace.
Well, Vicky, for Casarius, the other character in the bank is Bowser. And yes, Bowser is a great character. You can do a lot, but that is a huge hurt box. And if you are Rob, it is like shooting arrows at the side of a barn at that point. You won't be really missing too much. But Vicky, I know you love this. It's your girl. It's your girl, Corin.
Okay, this came out of left field. You know what, Jordan? I should have expected those, though. Looking at the tournament that we had 2 weeks ago, a lot of our players had a lot of these pocket characters that they were able to take out, and I like this change from Casarius. He's going to be able to utilize the range that Corin provides as a sword character to close in the gap, but also the aerials are going to be able to allow Casarius to catch the Gyro and take advantage of a lot of these landings that Marcus T. King has to be wary about when it comes to that pin on the forward smash.
So the switch to Corn, we'll see if it pays off here. EE so far in the early going, the investment has paid off for Casarius and applying all sorts of pressure on Mark SD King as he tries to get out of disadvantage. Nice little recovery with that neutral air. He's got the gyro, tries to throw it down. That gyro hanging off the edge. Oh, how about that 1-2 combo, EE?
What a slap shot, man. Big assist right there with the gyro. And I'll tell you what, I do like the fact that Casarius did it like kind of trick, maybe not try and do the...
Just filthy. That is just filthy. How
I did like it.
SD King. Oh my goodness. Yes, the change to Corn might have helped with a little bit of that offensive pressure, but Mark SD King just having his way right now. Up 3-1. Seems like they'll be cruising to a 2-0 here potentially. And Vicky, this is just what you see from a pro, and Mark SD King doesn't lose a single stock as he takes 2 games and breezes through to winners finals. And EE, have you recovered yet from what we just witnessed in what seemed like a minute and change right there?
I feel like call me to the courthouse to testify. Like that was just brutal. And the crazy thing is, like, Vicky highlighted so many positives of switching over to Corn, and it seemed like, the first 30 seconds it was going his way, but then Mark just like split that switch and like he just never looked back. I mean, when you talk about domination, just the rotor armor, just everything just going your way when you're edge guarding and then controlling the stage perfectly too. I mean, that right there, just a blueprint for success. My hat's off to him. That was crazy.
We are all witnesses. Let's go ahead and check out this bracket here in just a second. Mark SD King, you heard the impressive resume from Vicky. Won a North American October Open back in 2020 for Regions 1 and 2. Made it to the finals in May of 2020. This is just regular work here for Mark SD King, who is 12-0 coming in. So that'll go ahead and move us on to Flappe and Avarice. And looking at Avarice here. Avarice, very interesting, playing a Byleth and a Ridley here, Vicky. But then you have Flappe, who Wii Fit trainer, breaking a sweat. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, actually, seeing that Fall Play is stuck to the Wii Fit trainer, a character that loves to play the ledge, is really interesting because just sticking to Wii Fit, despite some different matchups that you're forced to work with, it could be tricky sometimes for Wii Fit. If you're not able to play ledge very often because you have characters who are playing more of a keep away character, like we saw previously with Min or even Minecraft Steve, that could be difficult because you don't want to give those type of matchups space. But Floppe has been able to do so, and he's a returning player who's done this before too, Jordan. Not only is Mark SD King a player that we've seen familiar in these tournaments, but so is Floppe. He's made it to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate NA Online back in October of 2020. So earlier just this month, we saw Floppe try to make it out here. Unfortunately fell short and now has a second chance of redemption.
We have Ridley versus Wii Fit Trainer, and Ridley, EE, give us a little breakdown here because, a little generous trash talk here at the beginning. And now you've got Ridley, and this is, again, another large character, not necessarily the heaviest either, and you've got to be somewhat mindful of just how big of a hurt box you have.
Yeah, honestly, Ridley can be pretty tricky too. Like, there's a lot of characters in this game, obviously, like they're kind of utilizing the fact that they're a big body and like a little bit more of a tank, but you can really kind of finesse people a lot with Ridley, and you're going to see a lot of that too. The offstage game very confidently displayed to kick things off. Avarice having no hesitation on that edge guarding attempt, and it pays off big time, only 27%. This is what I'm expecting out of Ridley.
Yeah, Avarice out to a really fast start, and we just saw the aerial mobility, and that comes to what we've really seen develop in this meta here, Vicky, the ability to just dominate in the air, and Avarice just having no issues whatsoever, trying to take a second stock from Floppe, has no problem hanging off the ledge. Both fighters able to recover, though, Vicky.
I think Avarice got the memo early that Halloween came early because Avarice is playing so scary right now, so aggressive. The side B to prevent Floppe from really being able to have the space for the Sun Salutation. Does have it activated anyways and is going to be playing the ledge. I like the way that Floppe just forced themselves back into the stage, but the way that Avarice has this lead already, an entire stock, and with Floppe taking that first stock away from Avarice, still sitting at 107%.
Floppe just trying to take a deep breath, regain composure. Still a lot of time left in class here. Floppe now starting to get into a groove here, and this is, well, as soon as I say that, it's just a quick KO from Avarice, and this is what you've seen from Ridley. Just so much power if you can connect on some of those hits here, EE.
100%. And, like I said, we're really seeing a lot of the damage being done, too, from Avarice when he's able to kind of get him off stage, too. Right? Like, that's been, like, the big decider, kind of clutched it out. And, removing a lot of these stocks. And, this could very well be another one. You saw the attempt right there, but gets a little too greedy, hand in the cookie jar, and gets absolutely obliterated, courtesy of that Pele soccer ball.
Yeah, whiffs on that side B and a quick punish. That now makes it 1-1. Floppe sitting at 97%. Floppe able to string together a few more hits for a combo here. Nice job out of shield. Nice parry coming out as well, too, from Avarice. And Avarice is trying to regain control. And this has been an extended neutral. And now it's Floppe that's kind of gained control here of this final stock here, Vicky.
Yeah, I really like the way that Floppe was playing that, actually so safe, passive-aggressive, not trying to overextend here, but has no choice but try to play from the ledge. But now notice how Avarice is doing exactly the same thing, almost a read with the up smash attempt to capture the roll from Floppe.
Both fighters down to their final stock, trying to take that ever so important game, but the back air cleans things up. And how about the turnaround by Avarice here, EE? Able to just connect and string together some of those big, powerful hits from Ridley, and that was an impressive showing down the stretch.
Love the fact he elected to go high rather than try and roll through. We saw that actually like a couple interactions ago get punished, but that time decided, okay, we're kind of down to those finishing blows type area. Let me get this back here. Let me go high. He didn't expect that, and that's where he kind of caught him off guard and was able to close that one out, because definitely Floppe was starting to kind of gain on him, and you even said it, Jay, was really kind of bringing the momentum back on his side.
And Vicky, don't forget, it was a very quick KO to start this game. Avarice able to get that against Floppe. Floppe getting spiked against the stage. You feel like if you're Floppe, you've got to feel somewhat encouraged. Even though you took the L, you realize, listen, I can't give any charity stocks here in the beginning. If I can stick to my game, I feel like I've got the upper hand.
Yeah, the way that they played that at the very start was really impressive because you have to imagine the mental boom from the very get-go, losing your stock so early, so quickly, and maybe not having the matchup knowledge that you would expect from Ridley. He's a very uncommon character, so you could really throw off your opponents. But the way that Avarice was able to still maintain in control and then Floppe to reiterate that and kind of slow down their own gameplay, it didn't let it get to them. They still managed to stay in the game and still try to figure out as much as possible because they know that they have another game just in case to work with.
In EE, it seems like whenever Floppe is in disadvantage, Avarice is just chasing them. You figure you've got to change some of your landing options, some of your recovery options if you are Floppe, because midway through that last game, it really seemed like Avarice was doing an excellent job of just reading the recovery options of Floppe.
Well, I'll tell you what, the one thing I think could help too is less defensive, defensive returns to the stage and stuff like that. You be aggressive on some of your approaches, right? Because a lot of times if somebody has pressure on you and they're figuring you're in disadvantage, you're just struggling to just kind of get your footing back. They're just going to assume you're going to pick something that's like super passive. No, just throw out a hitbox and just see what's going to happen. Try and space it as well, but don't be too passive. Like it's okay to be aggressive on some of those instances. I'm telling you, it works out more often than people think.
We just saw how aggressive Avarice was, Vicky. I mean, lost to stock because they were trying to side B off stage and they were quickly punished for that. Had no problem chasing Floppe off the stage. And I figure you've got to use that knowledge if you're Floppe and try to adjust your game and have a different approach when you are knocked off stage.
Yeah, understanding that they're playing extremely aggressive off stage, like what E was saying earlier. You want to make sure you can mix it up. You don't want to just defensively go back towards the ledge, understanding that you're playing very passive, that you're not returning fire in that situation. So noting that and noting how aggressive Avarice was, you want to use that to his disadvantage. You want to make sure that he's giving up stage control. So in that turn, make sure you manage to get back to the stage and you can punish Avarice for being able to get aggressive off the stage.
All right, well, we're still calibrating this matchup here between Avarice and Floppe. Avarice with that Ridley taking the first game. Winner of this one will move on to winners finals to take care of business, hopefully, or potentially against Mark SD King, who looked dominant in their first matchup. And this is what we're going to see. These different fighters, different characters. We've seen some switches here. And now with the Ridley, this aggressive Ridley EE, it seems like you've got to be very accurate if you are going to be that aggressive and chase and try and link together all these aerial combos when you're chasing someone down at disadvantage.
I think Avarice has already shown, like, look, I have no problem taking some risks. Like you saw the SD that we saw earlier, you know what I'm saying? Just anything to just try and get the stock removed a little bit quicker. And that's the thing, like when you're playing these heavier type characters, you already know like your hits just do more damage, right? You try to utilize and maximize that. And when you're under duress, you're putting people in situations where just uncomfortable. That's where you're seeing a lot. Even that first stock in the first game was a perfect example of that. You got a big body like Ridley just chasing you down off stage. He gets rewarded because he's just so aggressive and you're just kind of scrambling to get back. And before you know it, you're back, but you're a stock down.
Vicky, for people not too familiar with Wii Fit Trainer, what type of game are they trying to play? What are you trying to really put yourself in a position to do throughout the match?
You're playing very passive aggressive. You're holding onto the ledge. You want to make sure that you could utilize the ball to put in the pressure from far away. Ridley, being a big-bodied character, is more susceptible to getting hit in a very familiar way from our previous region when we were talking about Mewtwo, but isn't the heaviest in those terms. So because of that, you have to note that you don't want to be taking too much damage. And Sun Salutation not only helps heal Wii Fit Trainer, but also boost those attacks, makes those attack hit a lot harder, and you want to prevent that from happening, or else you're going to let Wii Fit Trainer run their own game.
And speaking of running their game, EE Wii Fit Trainer, we mentioned a very athletic fighter, very mobile, has some pretty decent foot speed. Never really got a chance to showcase that because it seemed like Ridley was doing a really good job of, again, pressuring to the point where you were always reactive and on the defensive rather than being the one that's dictating the terms.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it felt like the last maybe like 30, 45 seconds of the game, it felt like, we finally saw Wii Fit kind of get to put in a little bit of work, you know what I'm saying, trying to mount the comeback. But what I want to see like more of that aggressive nature, more of that, offense being ignited earlier, like right out the gate, you know what I'm saying, being smothered, in the opening, first 30 seconds or so. That can really dictate how the rest of it's going to pan out. So you have to be able to kind of strike right out the gate and hang with this Ridley, who's already proven to be incredibly aggressive. Hopefully this game number 2 will give him some success in that area.
Looks like Floppe and Avarice are ready to go. So Avarice dipping down low, gets back up on ledge, and this is Floppe with a little bit of stage control early on here, and already racking up 43, and it seems like now that passive aggressiveness has turned into more aggressiveness here, Vicky.
Yeah, you can see the way that Avarice is just not letting Floppe have that space. Floppe forcing Avarice to chase after them. But with these platforms here on Town and City, Jordan, you're going to have a lot of mix-ups with the approach that Avarice is going to have to his favor.
Flappe planting Avarice and able to try and connect right there. Avarice landing safely, both fighters getting out of shield. You see a lot of these headers coming out. Nice little dash attack from Flappe. Here comes the deep breathing. Can't quite get that final breath though, EE. And now here comes that pressure from Avarice that we've seen and already closes the gap after just a couple of hits.
You already know, man, he's not going to shy away. Big characters do big things, and he's trying to make some big plays right now. We've been coming back, but unfortunately that sharp tail of Ridley there to meet him is going to close out that stock rather cleanly.
And Vicky, we see sometimes the issue when you have a predictable recovery. You saw Avarice just hanging off the ledge, knew exactly the path that Flappe had to take to get back on, and read him like a book.
Yeah, essentially playing ball with this back air and still going on. Avarice now with the mix-up. You saw the side, the attempt to try to catch Flappe, but is it going to overextend off stage like we have seen from game number 1? I like the way that Avarice is playing this because it's still aggressive, but it's very bait and punish, and that's exactly why Avarice is able to get a second stock by the same ledge with the same move being back air.
Copy paste the drop back air off of ledge, and that is just giving Avarice all sorts of control in the second game. Avarice trying to close this out and take on Mark SD King in the winners finals. Back throw, that'll take the first stock off of Avarice as Flappe tries to slowly try and crawl back into this thing. And I know yoga's not a competitive sport of any sorts here, EE, but you got to get a little bit more competitive here if you're Flappe.
It might be the safer option right now for Flappe as well as we fit, because the battlefield's not looking like a place right now. This Ridley is absolutely just running amok. And again, it kind of comes down to just not shying away, taking the challenge, being aggressive. Even on this landing, you see right there, content to land by throwing out a hitbox. However, I do give Flappe a lot of credit, kind of starting to string together some damage here. 148 is definitely a very doable percent to take out this stock and keep yourself in the game, but you've got to do so without allowing it to kind of climb. And nice, keeps it sub 100, recovering a little bit of percentage as well, and still making this a close contest.
And Flappe quickly, Vicky, has now made this a very close game. What was once 3-1 is now 1-1, and Flappe trying to close that gap. But Avarice getting a little bit more stage control once again. Misses with the dash attack, punished by the up throw, able to connect into one hit there. But here is the patient out of shield option, and that is enough right there, Vicky, as Avarice is moving on.
Very, very slightly did we see Flappe even approach without the sun salutations being unlocked, but unfortunately right there when Flappe started gaining some momentum, jumping around Avarice's shield was not the move. The up smash out of shield being the best answer to kind of keep themselves away from Avarice, and that was the best way that Avarice was able to close out that entire set, 2-0.
So Avarice, as you mentioned, closing things out 2-0. We'll get a chance to take on the battle-tested Mark SD King as we take a look at the updated bracket winners finals. This will be quite the matchup. You've got Mark SD King with that Rob that just completely wiped the floor with Caesarius, and now Avarice will get a chance to take on Mark SD King, and that'll send Flappe down to loser semifinals against Caesarius here in just a moment. So here it is, Rob versus Ridley, you figure. This is fascinating here to me because, yes, Rob has got all these options here, EE, but we've seen Ridley, as soon as you can get a couple of hits, you rack up the damage, and Rob is not the smallest target.
No, not by any means. I think the big thing for Avarice here is going to be like, what do you do when you're off stage? You know, obviously, Ridley, nothing too special with that recovery, right? Like, it's efficient, but it's nothing too special. You're going to see a lot of times that Mark is going to elect to just try and interrupt with that gyro and then go for some spikes to follow up some of those dares, which can be very deadly and make it that much more difficult to come back from. And not to mention just being able to control the stage so well, again, with the gyro, with the projectiles, the laser beam, like so many things kind of work in the favor of Rob. It's really going to take a more of an effort here for Avarice to get the job done. Not impossible, but you can clearly see a little bit of a disparity just in how the matchup itself is going to pan out.
And Vicky, we saw Avarice use that hang on the ledge, drop off, back air to get 2 KOs in that last game here. That's because Wii Fit Trainer, somewhat predictable recovery. You're going essentially vertical for the most part. Is there enough of deception that Rob has with his recovery to avoid a similar situation? Because we know Rob burns a lot of fuel, as EE said, but can Rob do enough on some of those deep recoveries to stay away from that back air?
Absolutely. I want to highlight what EE was saying about this matchup. I think Rob definitely excels. It's not impossible, but definitely excels in terms of the tools that Rob has in comparison to Ridley, because you could mix up your recovery. Rather, Ridley also has a very linear recovery, similar to Wii Fit, where you're going to be more vulnerable and susceptible to getting spiked by Rob's down air. Then you also have a rather large hurt box because you're a big boy, so you have to watch out for the Rob side Bs that we had seen Mark SD King utilize in just the first set.
Ridley versus Rob. Avarice versus Mark SD King. Mark SD King, as he said before, has been a champion before. We're going to pause real quickly, though. Just give you a little teaser right there as they go ahead and reset things in just a moment. And that's the thing we see from this Rob EE is this isn't a I'm going to be patient and keep my distance and throw out some gyros and maybe some, neutral Bs to keep you at bay. This is a very aggressive Rob that Mark SD King has out there that really doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, to be honest.
No, and the crazy thing about Mark is too, like, you keep highlighting, battle tested. That's a big thing here. Like, he's been in this situation plenty of times, whether it's resulted in a second place or first place finish. Like, he knows kind of what it takes to get the job done in this atmosphere. And, you kind of give him a target like Ridley, who, again, yes, really, pretty solid character, but just doesn't have the tools to really, you make a tier list. They're not in the same stratosphere. It's just what it is, what it is, you know what I'm saying? But that far from always determines how the match pans out. Obviously, a lot of skill, strategy, and just patience, along with some innovation is kind of how a lot of these sets can be determined. But it's going to take a lot for really to get this one done, because Mark he's a different beast, and we've seen him just have so much success here. It's hard to bet against him.
And it will be fascinating to see what happens, because you have that experienced Mark SD King. But we saw enough from Avarice that Ridley can be pretty scary in the hands. And going back to understanding your matchups, Ridley, of course, one of the original new characters of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But you're curious how much experience Rob has against Ridley. And with Ridley here, Vicky, where do you compare against Rob in the air? Can you win that battle if you try to make it more of an aerial matchup rather than a grounded fight? Where are you looking for your advantages if you are Ridley?
I would say maybe trying to stay grounded, but also learning how to deal with gyro is going to be key, because then you're going to have to worry about so many different tools being covered by Mark SD King. And you also note he's got the experience, so he already has a game plan in his head when it comes to some of these matchups. Because when Ridley did come out with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate originally, that character was very popular. A lot of players loves playing Ridley. I feel like now it's a little bit more uncommon, especially when it comes to some of these online events. But Rob is quite literally different than that. We see Rob being played a lot in a lot of different environments. So I'm wondering if maybe the matchup is going to allow players like Avarice to understand that maybe this is not the matchup you want to take. We also noted that Avarice had a buy list that they were able to pull out in bracket before too. So there's always that option if they don't like how this matchup for the game number 1 works with Ridley.
Yeah, and that's what we saw in regions 5, 6, 7, 8, right? EE, where we saw someone go with Steve against someone's very, very talented fighter, and then all of a sudden you decide to make the change against that Min. You go with the Mario that closes the gap, and boom, you 2-0 them. So I wonder if this will be another situation where, all right, first game, we'll see what happens. If it looks like I'm clearly out of my league and I don't have the tools to compete with a Rob, I do have that secondary character to go with, and that's why it's important to have that secondary main, I imagine.
There's when you get 3 stock, you should instantly be thinking something else. Like, can I just keep it real? If you get 3 stock, you have to be thinking something else. You're in a best of 3, so and I like best of 3s because it forces you to kind of adjust and adapt and think even quicker on your feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to kind of get the job done more so immediately than down the stretch. So, it does kind of come down to, do I want to utilize one of my secondary characters if game 1 doesn't go so well? Or do I just put my full faith into what's pretty much brought me to the dance? It's a hard thing to kind of balance out, but at the end of the day, you got to go with what you're more comfortable with, and you live with the result, man. That's what it is.
Vicky, what are you looking for when you choose a secondary character? Are you looking for somebody that maybe covers up the weaknesses of your primary character, or are you looking for a completely different play style to throw a curveball to your opponent? How do you decide upon a secondary?
Competitive wise, on paper, that is the best option you want to do. You want to make sure you play a secondary that covers the bad matchups that you feel like you
Mm.
struggle with your main. But from my advice here, because I also play multiple characters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, play who you love having fun with, while also understanding the weaknesses of that character. And who
Mm.
knows, you don't just need a secondary character in general. You could also have a third character that you feel comfortable with. You could play over 80 fighters here in Smash Bros. Ultimate. So that's the beauty of having a plethora of so many characters to choose from.
And it's a lot of characters to understand, EE, because it goes back to, again, you've seen this at the highest level. It seems like the best players, as well as they understand their main, they understand their opponent's matchup, their opponent's tendencies just as well as their very own.
Yeah, I look, again, I said this at the beginning of this, broadcast. Like, it's one thing to know a matchup; it's a different thing to know a player. So, really, it just every single stock is just so crucial because you can pick up on something. And there's a lot of situations too where you can kind of condition somebody to maybe like expect, oh, he always rolls off the ledge, always rolls off the ledge. That one time you don't, that's when you hop up and you just get like a free punish in a situation like that, or you keep a stock alive in a situation where they're really determined to get that KO. Like, there's definitely layers to it, and kind of being able to understand and kind of weave your gameplay to kind of accommodate that, just such a big part, and why you see a lot of these competitors are just so good at just switching it up and adapting on the fly.
And Vicky, we've been singing the praises of Rob, but what are you looking to try and do if you are Rob? How are you trying to play and condition your opponent? I mean, are you zoning? Are you boxing? Are you dashing in and out? What are you trying to achieve as a Rob?
The beauty about Rob is that you could do both. So in that situation, one thing that you want to avoid is something that we had seen from Avaris, who he had those backers, especially dropping down from the ledge. Putting out a barrage of those backers was a lot of pressure, especially if you're recovering low and you don't have the best recovery. But in this situation, Rob has a lot of gas in the tank to mix up that recovery, so he doesn't really struggle in that way. And you also have to respect that gyro coming out if the gyro isn't already on the stage. You have the side B mix up too. If you put yourself off stage, especially as a big body character, the side B connecting is going to have a much more probable chance whether you jump or you don't, and that's going to be up to Mark to get that read. So as Rob, you want to make sure you can maintain that pressure in the air. You can maintain your game plan with gyro, kind of baiting out these options that you're going to be covering, like we had seen from Mark in the first set where he had the gyro by the ledge. You don't want to get neutral get up because you're going to get hit with the gyro, and then Mark SD King is going to go for that bread and butter follow-up, or you're going to get put off stage, which is still a bad situation for you if you're playing Ridley against a character like Rob who has that down air spike.
Going back to what you've experienced over the past year and a half, where both of you, Vicky and EE, have called so many of these live major tournaments, and now so much of the game has transitioned to online because of the environment that we've all been in over the past year and a half. Reiterate again what you're seeing in this mass transition to online play and how it's really opened up the eyes of so many different players and competitors and viewers.
Well, I mean, again, I'll continue to say this. I think people, if anything, it made people more motivated. Like, I swear, like, some of the people I know and some of my friends, they're just stubborn with their mains, bro. They're just like, no, I'm going to make this work. Like, I know we have, like, a bunch of different options, and everybody likes to get the DLC and play around with it, too. And, of course, like, that's what makes the game so fun. That's why it's one of the best games ever created. But it's the fact, too, that you're able to just understand, like, okay, I have access to play so many different people, get experience with so many different playstyles, so many different characters. Why not utilize that? So even when I do get an opportunity where I could come back, even like in an offline fashion too, I'll be so readily prepared and equipped. And that's one of the things I've loved about what came out of kind of like this Wi-Fi era, is the fact that people, they didn't just get stagnant or get worse, they got better.
Well, it sounds like we're just trying to make sure that we land on one of the correct stages here. You want that correct layout, of course. As you saw right there, you had plenty of platforms sitting at the table, and one too many platforms for this tournament. So just thank you again for the patience as we wait for this matchup between our winners finals, Mark SD King versus Avarice. And remind the folks again, Vicky, the pedigree, the resume that Mark SD King is coming in here with, because this is someone we've seen a lot of over the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, not only was he the winner from the October NA 2020 regionals finals for the first region and the second region, but he was also a runner-up, getting second place in the May Online Open in the 2020 year for the same region, Region 1 and 2. So Mark SD King has had all the experience within these events, and that's why he's consistently still trying out to get those prizes, because he sees it. He sees the end in sight, and he knows that he's able to obtain that status as a competitor.
And EE stage selection obviously has a huge impact. We've seen before where you're on a flat stage with no platforms, and that changes your approach and how the platforms can change things. Let's start with Ridley. What kind of stage are you looking for? Do you want something smaller, bigger? What are you hoping comes up in these randomly selected stages?
I would love to start off with Yoshi's if I'm Ridley. I'm thinking to myself, okay, nice little close quarters. We still have the triplat to work with. That's great. Something like FD or something like Kalos. Rob has too much space to operate. Like, as far like, he has way too much space to operate. He can control the pacing, like use those projectiles to full advantage. Like, that's just not what you want to see. And yeah, I know it's RNG. Sometimes you can't really control it. You got to roll with the best thing. Some good middle ground though. Give me Smashville. Give me Smashville. I'm not gonna have too many complaints about that.
And Vicky, for Rob, it sounds like, according to EE, you want a larger stage to play on because that gives you more chance to be more mobile. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Because then you have the ability to kind of work out your options too. You have much more ability to mix up your approach option when it comes to dealing with Rob, who doesn't necessarily have to approach you, has all the projectile tools in the world to keep Ridley out.
So we'll have most likely Rob versus Ridley. This is our winners final between Mark SD King and Avarice. And just as a reminder, a chance for what they're playing for: a gaming chair, a gaming headset, a Nintendo versus US Fall Open 2021 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, a backpack, a Nintendo Switch carrying case, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, Nintendo versus badge, and lanyard. And EE, you mentioned that the online play has made more people motivated. Do you think it's also brought more people into this competitive community of Smash? Because obviously you've got some people that have been doing this for years and years and years and have all sorts of experience, but it seems like more and more over time, there's a lot more people that are jumping into the pool and getting a chance to play. Are you seeing that now that there's been so much stuff online?
For me, one thing I think is it's a little bit of a trickling down effect in which, like, okay, people are kind of forced to play more so online. So you're going to play online anyway and compete. You're probably going to stream that. Hey, you're streaming, that creates a little bit of an audience for people to check out. Oh, this game looks cool. This is hype. I like this guy. I'm going to play too. I want to get involved, learn a little bit more about the community, from all sides. You have like the casual side, you have the competitive side. And there's nothing wrong with either side you choose. As long as you're having a good time playing Smash, bro, I think you're kind of like on the right track. And it's just so nice to meet so many people. And even some of these people who have really been excelling online, or excuse me, online, meet them offline for the first time too, is really cool. I tell you what, I'd love to meet Mark. I don't want to play him, but I'd love to meet him.
We've got some Smash here finally. Now we're on a legal stage and we are good to go as Mark SD King trails early on as Avarice, and this is a bit of a smaller stage, EE, not Yoshi's Story. I know you wanted to turn the page on that, but this seems like this plays well to the hands of Ridley, a smaller stage here and small battlefield.
No, I mean, the perks of the stage is in the name, right? Small battlefield, you know what I'm saying? Like, more close quarters action is definitely something I'm sure Ridley can appreciate, and allow him to really kind of chase Rob down more efficiently and not get all that space between the two, man, which I think can really just hinder what Ridley's truly trying to do, as you see him just kind of patrolling the ground right here and really making Mark punish just for trying to regain some sort of stage control, just some footing, but he's unable to find it in that first stock going the way of Avarice.
And Vicky sharking with that up tilt, very impressive read by Avarice, and so far he's doing a great job of just reading the recovery options of Mark SD King.
Yeah, not chasing either, not trying to overextend. I love the way that Avarice is playing this with the double back air. That's something that you have to watch out for here, especially when you're so close to the blast zone and you're down an entire stock in comparison to the opposition. But Avarice is playing this so aggressively, like nothing has changed in comparison to what we had seen him in this first set.
Avarice doing a fine job of just finding those brief openings, but here is the down throw, and that is a bread and butter of Rob, that down throw into up tilt.
Yeah, pretty good right there. I mean, you can really kind of decide exactly what you want to do up there. You got up tilt, you got up smash. You can even follow somebody up with the up air. A lot of good options present themselves. Be able to kind of bury somebody down off of that, and you can see just why that was so effective. He gets the stock off and then just continues to go to work, just kind of mounting this comeback, and it is really starting to string up. He's actually taking the lead. The gyro lending some assistance in that. Oh my goodness, but just keeping pace with him. Avarice striking back to maintain the lead. My goodness.
So much aggression here, Vicky, from Avarice. Just does not let off the pedal, and this is what you kind of have to do when you're playing against one of the big boys, and Mark SD King. Take it to them. Who cares about the resume? Know that you can be aggressive and set the tone, and how about the flying up air? And how about Avarice taking the very first game off of Mark SD King, since Mark SD King has been and the ladder in the round at 32. That is one of the more impressive victories we've seen today, Vicky.
The scoop up with the double up air was my favorite right there. The way that Avarice also played that matchup was beautiful. Just like EE said, not having a lot of space given to Rob doesn't allow him to keep up that pressure as much as he would want with the gyro there. So the way that Avarice also played around gyro with the dash attacks to catch the gyro put a dent to Mark SD King's plans there, because he wasn't really able to utilize the gyro in a way where he was able to combo off of it previously in his other sets.
Mark SD King, who had been 12-0 coming into these finals, quick 2-0 in winter semifinals, loses his first game, and it is small battle. Well, it's Battlefield this time here. He almost thought it was small Battlefield once again. You have that triplat. Does that really change much here in this matchup between Mark SD King and Avarice?
100%. It opens the stage more. Like, you have more room to kind of work with, more opportunities to kind of escape as well. I think that's something that Mark is really going to appreciate in this as well. Like, you're going to see, again, that zoning game be so powerful. And just the fact that, again, you know, you get to a stage to work with. This is what Rob, I'm sure, can appreciate. See him already going to work. Got that man into the triple digits already. And showing no signs of slowing down.
That's what really stands out here, Vicky. You've got much more stage control for Mark SD King and Rob, but now here comes Avarice trying to shark underneath. Oh, nice falling fair. Followed up by that gyro that's going to set things up and just limit that stage a little bit more. And now this is the Mark SD King we're used to seeing here, Vicky, the one that's sort of dictating the pace.
Even though Marcus DK is playing so much better, I love the pressure with the up air by the ledge, kind of tricky to catch Avarice off guard, and that should be a follow-up here, but Marcus DK, Flub is able to have enough time to get a second grab, but the second one isn't even enough to get the bread and butter combo that Marcus DK would have otherwise wanted here. Avarice now, being able to make this comeback is going to be huge because he's got rage to work off of.
Both fighters still in their first stock here. Mark SD King trying to throw that gyro. Oh, follows up right there. Still not enough here. So Ridley with enough heft in those wings to stay on stage. Ridley trying to recover. Avarice, one game away from taking home one of our grand prize packages. And that'll be the first stock that Mark SD King knocks off of Avarice. And now Avarice with a quick response. EE, that was clutch.
Love to see the immediate retaliation. Such a close game between these two, man. Nobody really getting too much of an advantage, just keeping it about as close as you would expect. You know, again, you get these kind of winner's finals, you expect an evenly matched type of field, and that's what we're seeing thus far. Stage really has not played as much of a factor in really hindering Avarice, I want to say, more so aiding Mark and at least being able to get his offense more consistently, but still, you're just seeing this Ridley having no problems getting in there when he so chooses to.
Mark SD King trying to close off all escape options with that gyro. That's quickly gobbled up by Avarice. Avarice just trying to get back to center stage. Here comes the down throw, followed up by a quick little up air that misses. Another down throw. Here's the opportunity, and how about that, Vicky?
Yeah, the follow-up. He's not going to go for the upper this time around. He wants to make sure he could go for the confirm, go with the up smash instead to nail the coffin for the stock here. And the pressure still coming in from Avarice. The parry, knowing that you could just pop out of his shield right there out of the jab, kind of giving you enough space to get the parry in the first place. I love what I'm seeing right here from Mark. And the way that he's kind of brought this back, he's changed up his gameplay a lot, despite Avarice still playing aggressively.
Avarice trying to hang on and get one quick KO to essentially reset this game. And yes, he does. So EE for the second time in this game, a quick KO to make it even stocks. But now Mark SD King quickly establishing control on this final stock.
Yeah, Mark hasn't really had an opportunity to maybe utilize Rob as well as he would like to when he's got Ridley off stage, and that's credits to Avarice being pretty evasive and at the same time really keeping some good positioning on the stage as well. You see him just kind of tearing through, trying to get Mark off the stage. Would love to be able to make a play off of that. Needs to be careful though, being maybe a little too aggressive in some spots here when that percentage is at 119. You don't want to make it too easy for Mark. You see him trying to line up a nice back air just for positioning. Probably won't close out the stock, but we're getting to that point where it could end, and that'll do it off the up smash.
So Mark SD King evening things up at one game apiece. Looked much more comfortable there, Vicky, as far as the stage selection. Had some breathing room to really set up some of these gyros to really condition Avarice. And now it gets to a crucial game 3. And it seems like the stage is going to play a huge role in determining who has the advantage between these two.
You saw how much a little extra room goes a long way for Mark in that set, and I like the way that he made some of those adjustments. Even though he was missing some of those conversions, he still was able to keep up with the pressure that Avarice was putting on him originally after the first game. And of course, since it is first to three here, or rather best of three here, Jordan, you don't really have a lot of time to work with in this set in adjusting, so props to Mark for making that adjustment already after the first game.
Pokemon Stadium 2, still plenty of room for Rob here. So now the adjustment for Avarice is, how do I continue to be aggressive even though Rob's got a lot more room to work with here, EE? And there's the changeup on the recovery option. Mark SD King not going to fall victim to that falling back air, EE.
No, Mark is, obviously, Vicky and you ran down the resume. Like, this man is very polished, very studied, and he's been in this situation plenty of times. Expect a lot of adaptation. I say that for both of these guys, too, right? Because it's clear that Avarice is not just trying to be all willy-nilly and force the same old options himself. He's definitely done a lot of good mix-up, especially with dealing with the fact that gyro can be such a problem on the stage as well. Oh my goodness, that get-up attack actually maybe keeping that stock intact. That could have been an early one right there, but a good strong showing from both right out the gate.
Down thrown to the back here, sends Mark SD King off stage, and how about the connection there while hanging on the ledge? The dash attack was effective for Avarice. Avarice is trying to read this recovery option. Mark SD King gets back on stage, charged up laser. Avarice has to eat that down throw into the up smash. Vicky, and that down throw is just so devastating.
It is, and the perfect tool that sets up for it is the gyro that puts in the pressure, forces you in shield, and look how Mark is just continuing on with this lead, this aggression, basically changing the tides here when it comes to pacing, and that's what happens when you have some extra space to work with too with this different stage.
Mark SD King, one stock advantage over Avarice, racking up the percentage also. This will be some terrific extra credit once the stocks become even, and there's that side B that connects for Avarice, so now it's 2-2. Can Avarice get back into this thing here, EE? And it just seems like Rob is doing such a great job, Mark SD King, of just cutting off some of these aggressive approaches.
Yeah, what we're seeing is primarily a lot of what we thought we might see in that first game, though. I do stand by what I said. I think the stage had a big hand in how that first one went. It was a two-stock by the way of Avarice, but, since we've seen these stages in the last two, in Battlefield and Pokemon Stadium, more opened up. You're seeing Mark, plenty of room to work with. Look at that, even just kind of delaying his return to the stage, using that platform as well to his advantage, even to just kind of get some strings and combos going. I mean, this is just one of those situations where if you're Avarice, you understand, okay, I got to make a play sooner rather than later. Might have to call him to get a little aggressive. I thought that might have been the stock right there, but he's working on it.
That would have been huge because now you're essentially notched up on the third and final stock, but Mark SD King still with a one stock advantage and a chance to add more percentage, and you don't want to give Mark SD King any extra time at this point. You've got to get this KO so quickly if you are Avarice, but Mark SD King changing the playstyle here. Vicky playing a little bit more passive just to cause some chip damage.
Knowing right here that Avarice is on their last stock, that Mark SD King doesn't have to play too overly aggressive, but doesn't want to play super defensively either here, where your ledge invincibility runs out and gives you a free stock over to Avarice as he is down in the disadvantage. Mark SD King still doing a really good job at not only maintaining a lot of the stage control with the gyro out in the middle playfield, but does get called out with his landing on the platform. That up smash covering so much space from Ridley.
Here we are, third game. Avarice at over 100% now. Can Mark SD King close things out and add another page to the impressive online resume? Now trying to be a little bit more aggressive. Both fighters colliding mid-air. The damage starting to rack up for Mark SD King. You know that Rob can try and get his claws on Avarice for that down throw. That's what you've got to avoid here. 138. Avarice trying to be patient. Another back air coming out, and EE, Avarice getting closer here, staying alive. That rage is now building up.
That rage is pretty high, man. 158. I would be absolutely terrified right now. Oh, maybe anticipating a panic roll. Smart of Avarice not to give that one up. If you're Mark, you understand the situation is in my favor, but only for so long. 95%. This is very scary territory to be. It could be the closer, and it is the up smash out of down throw to close it out. Mark by the skin of his teeth, taking winners finals.
Vicky, it is so reliable. The down throw into up smash confirmed. We saw it numerous times. Mark SD King now taking home that grand prize, adding another impressive bullet point to everything he's done here. And that's just what makes Rob so dangerous. You get into that KO range, you know that you've got a surefire way to close things out.
Yeah, you got the checkmate right there. That works out really. And what better way to utilize that confirmed than with the game-winning grab from Mark SD King, winning from winners finals too. Evers really put a good fight though, and I like the way that was still down to the wire, even to the last stock.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket as Mark SD King claims our first grand prize by taking winners final. And, you know, credit Avarice for making that a very close third and final game. Was down over 100% going into a 2-1 stock disadvantage, but was almost just a few hits away. So that means Mark SD King will win our gaming chair, our gaming headset, our Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, the backpack, the Nintendo Switch carrying case, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, and the Nintendo vs. badge and lanyard. And now that sets up losers semifinals. Casorius versus Flappe, and we have a Wii Fit trainer going on against a Simon and Belmont and Casarius. Remember, EE, that was a quick trip down to loser semifinal. Mark SD King made very quick work of them. So now here's a chance to maybe rethink things, cool off. You've had some downtime, you've had a chance to watch some more matches. What's the mindset here as you're entering loser semifinals and you really didn't put up much of a fight in your opening round?
Yeah, serious. I'm kind of excited because, you know, yeah, you kind of got whooped in the opening round. It happens, you know, to the best of it. It doesn't take away from anything you as a player. It just didn't go your way. So now you get another chance on stream to maybe even advance a little further in this bracket and understand you still have a shot at getting one of the grand prizes. Like there's no shame in claiming it through the loser side of things. Somebody has to, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I just keep a positive mindset. I stay encouraged. I saw Flappe play, so I know what to kind of expect out of Wii Fit. I just got to play my game at the end of the day and understand, hey, at least it's not Rob. I have a chance to recover.
Casarius will go as Simon, who they played as for the majority of the ladder in round of 32. And Flappe sticking with that Wii Fit trainer, and obviously a difference in speed and athleticism here, Vicky. And you figure Simon and Casarius want to play a little bit more of a zoning game.
It may not be the gyro, Jordan, but it is the ball that kind of does the same thing here in the matchup. When you want to recover as Simon, that's going to be your biggest weakness. So you want to maintain the center stage control that Casarius has been able to do so far. But now the deep breathing has already been activated here by Flappe, and he is going to be able to try to find a way to rack up more of this damage with Casarius standing at 92%.
Well, those crosses coming out, but here comes the sun salutation that aligns Casarius and Simon, and Simon finally able to get back on stage. Nice little combo out of the holy water and the flame, and at this point, that's an early stock right there, EE. How about Casarius turning the tide?
Yeah, it kind of looked like it was going the way of Flappe, just the way this thing started off, but I tell you what, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So good stuff to my man Casarius, kind of weathering the storm. Tries to get a little extra credit on the damage. We're going to have to just settle for that 10% and be happy with it because we're just basically even back up here on Callus again. You know, Callus a pretty generous stage when it comes to sizing too. So closing that gap is going to be important for both these characters.
I was just going to say that, Vicky, if you are Casarius, you got to love the fact that you have a larger stage because now you're spending less of your time off stage where we know that's where Simon struggles.
Absolutely, and you also have those platforms too to add in a mix-up to that too, so you're gonna have Casarius gonna be able to run away with a lot of that extra pressure. I like how they're also playing much more passive-aggressively here, because we can see Casarius actually have a game plan, being able to see him play a lot longer when it comes to this type of matchup. But you have to be careful with Flappe, still holding on to that second stock and still has the lead. As long as you can try to punish these landings from Flappe, Casarius could see themselves still taking the stock early.
More of a measured approach here in this first game between Casarius and Flappe. Both fighters kind of feeling each other out. You see the headers and the holy waters, the crosses, the whips, and now it's just dancing around all these obstacles here. E, nobody really has dominated neutral and maintained most control, but here's a nice little turnaround by Flappe.
Yeah, seriously, Flappe understanding, hey, you know what, this has definitely been difficult to kind of wade through, you know, all this, you know, these projectiles and just this whole arsenal that Simon does kind of bring to the table. Goes for a wild up being going to be punished, but not lose the stock for it. Gotta be careful. They want to give anything away for free, but hard earned on that soccer ball snipe. Gets the KO, and now one stock away from taking it.
Count one goal for Flappe here. Now 2-1 stock advantage, trying to chase down Casarius. Casarius, oh, it's another sun salutation, and that's the issue here, Vicky. If you're going to be a zoner like Casarius, you have to make sure you aren't dealing with all these projectiles and taking so much damage from them.
Absolutely. When you're forced to jump, you know Flappe is going to be ready for that. But the retaliation, the aggressive way to land right back and set Flappe, put him back in their place here, now is going to force Flappe to be in the disadvantage. And actually, surprisingly, trying to land on Kasaurus. That was risky, but still manages to maintain not only that stock lead, Jordan, but maintain the lead in the set, taking game number 1.
And it just seemed like EE that Wii Fit Trainer just a little too quick for Simon. Yes, Simon's got all these different tools and different projectiles that come in at different angles, but it really just seemed like Wii Fit Trainer was running laps around Simon. And now if you're Kasaurus, maybe you think about a change. You saw the change to Corrin earlier, but that didn't work out against Mark SD King. And what do you do? Because if you get stuck on a small stage, you're really in trouble. That was one of the more larger stages that you could possibly get, and you still couldn't quite dominate or maintain control of neutral for most of that match.
If I had, the crazy thing about that is too, like if I'm, on this side and I'm thinking, okay, I would want that amount of space, you know what I'm saying? That's what I want to operate with, but it really just didn't make any much of a difference. It's almost like it delayed the inevitable, the way Flappe started to kind of go off when they really started to connect those hits. So it's definitely a challenging affair here. You kind of got to think, okay, do I want to switch things up? It looks like the answer to that is going to be yes. Getting a smaller stage as well with Corrin, not a bad thing by any means. I definitely, didn't have the best showing, and I think Mark did deliver a 3 stock. But, this is a different opponent, it's a different kind of mindset you have to have. And you're a different place in the bracket, too. Like, just play your best, and, some good things could happen. But Flappe has definitely looked impressive.
So far, it's a quick KO. The short ceiling here, Vicky. And how about Flappe, the combo that led to that?
Why is it every single time we see the Corrin come out, this is the result from the very beginning? This is the commentator's curse. Is this what I'm witnessing right now? And even the side B attempt to try to get back to the stage aggressively. I like the high recovery, but at this point, you know that Flappe is going to have not only the stock lead, but have the ability to force Kasaurus to approach them in this situation because they're down to stock. And the one thing that Corrin really does have to work with is that range on the pin, but it's very laggy if you want to do it. If you want to try to rise with it, you're just susceptible to getting hit even more. Now Flappe's up by 2 stocks.
And unfortunately, this is not teaching tape if you're thinking of Corrin as a main. Unfortunately, Flappe and Wii Fit Trainer have just been bopping Kasaurus all over the place, and Wii Fit Trainer just so athletic, so many different options that they can throw out here. And I know that hurts your heart, Vicky, as president of the Corrin fan club here, but you got to give credit to Flappe. It's just the way that they were able to play with this aggressive playstyle has only taken 45% here, EE, and still on their first stock. Just absolute dominance.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dominant display. Like, there's really just no other way to really describe it. And, you're going to see a lot of times, too, now, Flappe, he's going to try and get a little cheeky with these kills. You're gonna, these stocks taken. You know what I'm saying? He's going to go off stage. There's no reason not to. Like, you have so much wiggle room. Even if you do happen to drop this stock first, you still have a whole 2 more to work with. Like, there's literally nothing that right now Flappe has to worry about. It's just kind of like, we're just laying the inevitable at this point.
Flappe trying to set up a rematch against Avarice, and namaste in the bracket here. Flappe, a 3-0 against Kasaurus. Kasaurus, thank you for joining us, but you see how difficult it gets, how competitive it gets when you get to the final 4 out of hundreds, and just like that, that is Flappe moving on to losers finals, which will set up a rematch between Ridley and Wii Fit Trainer as they take against Avarice. And here we go. You get a chance now to learn something. That was very interesting what happened in winter semifinals, Vicky. Now, how do you adjust things as we take a look at this bracket? What's your mindset when you get a chance to have a rematch against somebody? Do you change your playstyle up too much, or do you try to stick with what's been working?
I feel like right now, if it works, if it's not broken, don't fix it, in this situation. And that's exactly what I'm expecting from Avarice. I expect Avarice to play as aggressively as we saw Avarice play against Flappe earlier, and against a player like Mark SD King, the player who has consistently made it out to the ends of the bracket. And I think that's also some intimidation that you have to consider with Flappe having to play from that lower bracket and now having to face off against the same player who put them there in the first place.
Flappe versus Avarice, our final set of the day. We're going to figure out who's going to win that second grand prize package that we've mentioned, all sorts of goodies in that one. The Ridley, very aggressive, and we saw EE have a lot of success against Wii Fit Trainer by hanging on the ledge, dropping off with that back air. And here's a small stage, and this is something that I feel like, again, with Yoshi's story, really favors Ridley in this situation, EE.
Yeah, 100%. And this was a bit of a rematch from what we saw earlier. Obviously, these two duking it out, and Avarice able to go over just barely, man. Definitely, you already know Flappe doesn't make it easy for any opponents that we've seen him up against up until this point. So, would be kind of sweet on his end to get a level of retribution as well as claiming that prize pack. But you gotta imagine the Avarice, understanding he was just so close to winners finals, eager to just kind of finish the job, win this best of 3. Ooh, but you can't give up air dodges like that, my man. That can get you punished.
Yeah, the juggle into the punish, beautifully done. Really the first highlight of this matchup so far. The first minute or so of play was pretty stagnant for the most part. But now it's Flappe trying to get back on stage. Here comes the grab, the down throw. No follow-up though here, Vicky. And seems like it's Avarice with the stage control at the moment.
Yeah, it read like a book there too. I love the patient play, but forcing Avarice to having to play patient is something that we weren't used to until right now. Flappe, seeing the situation has been reversed. I love that backer, that rising backer, kind of telling Avarice to sit down. You can't try to approach me the same way you wanted to approach before. And you can see that Flappe is running around forcing Avarice to approach because not only do they have the lead, but they've only taken 86%.
Yeah, Flappe trying to add some tip to the bill here with that one stock advantage and set themselves up nicely. Gets the recovery and the sun salutation. So they're the deep breathing, ready to go with that. But how about the first KO finally coming from Avarice, and 26%, not too bad. You didn't put yourself too far behind here, EE.
No, not at all. You know, every time you get to those kind of percentages, like you're just always trying to keep it like sub something, right? Sub 50, sub 60, and that is a very healthy percent that he can easily work with. Again, really being such a big body, hard-hitting character. That's what you want to exploit. And again, you know, he finds himself a bit of luck here, queuing up to a stage, which I think does benefit a character like Ridley in just the space and, you know, the blast zones here. So gonna take a little bit more effort here, obviously, to kind of even up that stock, even up that percentage, because Flappe has realized, hey, I can just still kind of run circles around even with a smaller track.
I was going to point out as the up smash connects here, Vicky, and that was critical. Flappe just really running around and waiting for those opportunities from a safe distance to approach with the header and the sun salutation.
That was a beautiful follow too. Flappe understanding the conversion that was necessary right there and even setting themselves up, and now the follow from the soccer ball too, but Avarice immediately retaliating with an aggressive option as they land. They have to keep note of that in case Flappe managed to get some punishes later down the line in the set, but Avarice switching up the situation with an aggressive attempt on trying to go for a ledge guard here onto Flappe, and successfully doing so. Look at this patience that we're seeing from Avarice.
So Avarice down 2-1. Trying to get back into this is Ridley. You've got Flappe sitting at 127 and some rage, building up a nice little advantage with that one stock lead. And this is what's been successful for them, EE. The fact that you can run around Avarice and set up a little bit of a wall with those sun salutations and headers. And now here it is. Here's a chance for the game. You've got an 80% advantage. You can't stop being aggressive if you're Flappe. You've got to find those gaps. To approach with those headers.
This is kind of where you got to put this stock away, and I think that's going to do it. Yes, sir. I will say, though, I did notice a couple of panic options. It seemed like they're trying to just kind of force the advantage with some side Bs and some whiff smash attacks that Avarice was throwing out there. So fortunate to get to that last stock, but unfortunately the percentage a little too much to overcome when Flappe was playing that solid.
And Vicky, that's a great confirm, that down throw to plant and then follow up with a smash attack. It is so useful having one of those tools in your back pocket, one of those absolute confirms that not too many characters really have. When you get to that situation, final stock versus final stock, you've got them within KO percentage. You know if you can just get your hands on them with a grab, it's basically curtains.
Yeah, Avarice is looking back at the set that he had with Mark as D King, was like, you started this, and Flappe taking notes, basically doing the same thing with another character. But that's the trade-off when you're playing a big-bodied character like Rob, basically, but Rob just has different tools. But with Ridley, your hurt boxes are large because their character is large, so you're trying to work around a lot of these projectiles that you have to deal with Wii Fit Trainer and Rob, and you're kind of meeting the same fate with these confirmations.
The Flappe with a little bit more real estate to run around with here, EE, so I'm curious as to see how that'll change as the up throw leads into another connection on the juggle here, but it is Avarice who's finally getting into some momentum, and if you're Avarice, you just have to not let Flappe get away, as you see it right there. How about the chase and the pursuit by Avarice, EE?
Yeah, he had that lock and key, bro. Those wings were locked on, and the target was definitely found on that. Great exchange and great response, too, from Avarice. This is obviously something he's going to need to kind of force this game number 3, a hot start. And really, if he can kind of keep up this momentum, he has a good chance to finish this game and take it headed into game number 3. You can tell just the way he's playing, man, that's exactly where he's looking to go.
Avarice with the quick and early KO. We saw that in a previous game in winter semifinals when Avarice was victorious in that set, but now it's 2-2. Flappe didn't lose too much ground with that second stock. Flappe now trying to maintain stage control, does a fine job, but however eats that up tilt. And now we've seen this string before, Vicky. It is so beautiful, and Flappe able to get into it.
Flappe heard us talk about Everest so much about that aggression that Flappe wanted to replicate that right now, and he's able to do so despite being down that stock at first. You can see the way that he's not only even this out, but put himself in the advantage. Now Everest is going to be answering back. You see Flappe having those platforms right there to try to utilize it, but won't even have the opportunity to do so. Now Everest is up in the lead again.
And these are some narrow KOs that we're seeing from Avarice. I mean, at 118, that is clutch to get that EE, and that could be the difference in these types of games if you're just a few percentages off versus letting them live. And so now, if Avarice, the goal here is you've got to make sure you just build up as much as you can before you get to that final stock.
Pretty much. Actually, funny you mentioned the percentage, like, just how crucial it can be to be at that right percent just to survive. And that's kind of what ended up, giving Avarice the victory narrowly in that first exchange that we saw early on the winner side of things. But now a reversal of fortunes as opposed to how this thing started right now. My man Avarice definitely trying to get on the court. 142 is the percentage. Tried to keep some space. A little ill-advised though, throwing out those fireballs on the platform because Flappe had a clear beeline just to take that stock and did not let it go to waste.
Yeah, Flappe chasing down with that up air underneath the platform, and now we're on the final stock. Flappe, if they can come back and take this game, they will take our second grand prize pack. Avarice trying to force a game 3, and Flappe having to eat all sorts of fireballs. It's getting a little hot yoga. Not a fan of that, as Avarice will tie things up at 1 apiece. And there we go, Avarice not willing to give up here, Vicky, and you love the adjustment of just being a little bit more aggressive with different options once they got Flappe off the stage.
I also love the patience that we saw from Avarice by the ledge there, perfectly timing those down tilts, making it so difficult for Flappe to recover. We highlighted how linear Wii Fit's recovery could seem like the up B, kind of leaving you open, and Avarice highlighted exactly how that could leave you open, including those fireballs, making it a little too spicy for Flappe to make that recovery.
That'll bring us to a third and final game 3. It's what you sign up for when you go ahead and enter these tournaments. Some drama going into losers finals. Winner of this game will take home the second grand prize pack. Let's go ahead and run it back on the same stage here. And EE, did anything stand out to you as far as an adjustment needed by anybody, or is this just, hey, run it back and the better player wins?
I thought Chris did a fantastic job playing the platforms well because he not only used it as like kind of a withdrawal like for defensive purposes, he was approaching off of them too, right? Like in catching a lot of times Flappe was catching some of those approaches as well. So basically, oh my goodness, I was basically great side B there, just basically utilizing it for both offensive and defensive purposes. I think that was the big difference, and that first stock being obliterated could too be the difference in how this one finishes.
The hard read on the side smash, Vicky, and every once in a while, in a golden moment, you get a chance for one of those to connect in a match, and it is sweet.
It feels amazing, and it also can help shift the phase of the match in your favor too. And you see that right now with Avarice holding not only center stage, but keeping up this pressure, just passing the ball right back to Flappe, and even trying to throw out a back air on the platform in case Flappe wanted to mix up their recovery.
This is a critical point in the game, and there it is. Flappe able to tie things up on the stock front. That could have gotten out of hand if Avarice had gotten some more percentage. But now it's Avarice, once again, has Flappe off stage where they want him. And Flappe can't convert on that absolute open opportunity. But now it's Avarice, again, doing a great job here, EE, of just maintaining control in the neutral.
Yeah, Flappe is just really playing under duress right now, and finally starting to get some hits, the combinations to start adding up that percent, but it's really hard when you can't get your offense flowing because you're too worried about being KO. That side B again, paying off big time as my man moves just one stock away from taking the grand prize. Don't get no free damage up like that, brother. What were you thinking?
Already 58%, Vicky, you caught it. It was one of those rare moments. And how about that? Avarice already building up the percentage.
It wasn't a 0 to 100, but it may as well be halfway there, Jordan. And now we can see Avarice just one stock away from taking that winner's prize. Look at this, the down smash, and Flappe doesn't even have the chance to react and DI properly because Avarice was all over him from the start of that game.
Avarice comes from behind, down 0-1, takes 2 straight games, and claims our second grand prize. And congratulations to Avarice and EE. We saw that, just the ability to adapt your playstyle ever so much, to be a little bit more aggressive in some moments, patient in some others. Really like the way that Avarice bounced back and turned things around.
100%. You know, you lose the first one on Yoshi's, and then you queue to Town City twice. Like, hey, we'll take that. Really was not shying away from taking the challenge and being super aggressive. Didn't seem to have any problems with any of like the projectiles too that you saw Flappe trying to kind of introduce into the setting. He was just like, no, I beat you in winter side. I'm gonna run it back. I'm gonna get that grand prize. I'm gonna call it a night, Jay. That's how you end it.
All right, let's take a look at the final bracket here as we have our second grand prize winner, and that is Avarice. After falling to Mark SD King in 3 games in winner's final, gets a chance for some retribution and will take home that gaming chair, gaming headset, Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate jacket, the backpack, the Nintendo Switch carrying case, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate pin set, and the Nintendo vs. badge and lanyard. Vicky, EE, let's start with you, Vicky. Closing thoughts after we just saw action from 8 regions. What did you enjoy the most here today?
I think watching the difference in characters that we had between this region and the previous region that we just covered is the highlight. I always highlight the fact that we get to see so many different fighters on the screen from our competitors, but then adding their own little touch to these characters allows players like Avarice pop off with Ridley, and you don't get to see that too often, so I love to see it.
And EE, what was your highlight of the day, my friend?
It absolutely had to be the fact that my man Mark just showed up back at it again. Like, I really like Mark's ride. I think he's a talented, phenomenal player, so it's great to see him again. And then, like, in the second bracket too, the character variety, that was so much fun. Like, I really did enjoy Steve and Mario Mania, but with a game of this magnitude, with this kind of roster, you want to see a lot more characters present, and I'm glad we got that.
All right, well, excellent job today, both of you. EE, don't forget, I've got that food recommendation for you. But before we go, don't forget, Play Versus is Nintendo's official Scholastic partner for both Super Smash Bros. And Splatoon 2, where thousands of high school players will compete weekly for a championship title, and players can now earn a varsity letter. That's right, a varsity letter by gaming with their friends. The fall season has already begun, but you can sign up now to learn more about the spring season at www.playversus.com. Spread the word at your school and visit playversus.com to get your school ready to play in the spring season of 2022. That'll do it for today's action of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo vs. US Fall Open 2021. But for myself, Jordan Kent, Vicky Kitty, and EE, thank you again for joining us, and thank you to our hardworking crew. Make sure you continue to stay plugged into Nintendo Versus for more fun, competitive Nintendo action. From all of us here, have a wonderful night, and we'll catch you next time.
match.